What's going on, people? Welcome to the Freedmen's Collective for Tuesday, March 8th. What is happening, y'all? How y'all doing?
What's going on, y'all?
What up? What up? What up?
Oh my goodness, man. Make sure y'all are sharing this video right now because we are on live a little later than usual. So apologies from my side. I'm always the hold up. I'm the bottleneck, but I'm Darvell. I'm hiding out down in the cut, beyond the cut, just trying to stay low because they shooting the rockets right now. It's a little hot out here. But you already know my name, so I'm gonna hand it over to my man Stead and then my man's Ernest. Y'all go on ahead and tell the people who y'all are.
Hey, what up? What up? So I already cleared it with the fellas. It's gonna be a little long intro. So as you can see, I'm conspiracy brother, right? And I feel like sometimes that gets lost on people. I get the tinfoil kufi out, and I think sometimes people think, "Oh, you just playing around." So what does that mean? Where did I get that from? Why did I do that? Why do I say that? Why is that who I am? Okay. So what is a conspiracy? Just a little. I'm gonna just read Webster's dictionary. Just short, quick. A conspiracy is the act of conspiring together, an agreement among conspirators or a group of conspirators. Okay. So if you look at conspiring, you can look that up right quick just to get an idea. To conspire is a verb, intransitive verb. It means to join in a secret agreement to do an unlawful or wrongful act, or an act which becomes unlawful as a result of the secret agreement, or a scheme, or to act in harmony toward a common end. So when I say I'm conspiracy brother, what I mean by that is I'm always trying to look under the surface for my people and for anybody who watches our content to tell you about what lies beneath, right? I'm not conspiracy theory brother. I'm conspiracy brother, meaning that what I tell you is either proved to be the case or in my through my research investigation and my brother's research and investigation, it is we have a certain degree of confidence that it is true and factual. I do not intend to have anyone out here with any wild conspiracy theories. Okay? When we talk about what's going on this channel, it may sound outlandish. Some of the stuff I said 6 months ago sounded outlandish, but we live in it right now, right? So remember, I'm conspiracy brother, not conspiracy theory brother. And I love y'all.
What's going on, y'all? I'm Ernest. I'm out here located in Michigan. If you guys check me out in the digital space, Black Contraband, y'all know what it is. Definitely here to get you guys the latest and greatest news on reparations and even the Freedmen agenda, this movement that you guys have been hearing about, this global phenomenon in America where we're reviving the fight for actual reconstruction. And so, with that being said, I think, Darvell, we can go ahead and head into the local segment.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yep. So heading into the local segment, during the local beat, we usually try to give you guys the local news of what's going on out here in Michigan, usually in the Black areas. So like areas like Detroit.
Ernest, hold on. I'm sorry. I got to pause. I do want to say something real quick as people tune in to our show today. Just so you know, Ernest is going to open up the local beat, but our runner show today, I know the topic is really about the crossing of Blackness in the global view with this war in Ukraine. We're going to open it up with the Detroit reparations update, as we always do. Our main topic is going to be that invasion, but we're going to step into that through the State of the Union, which was talking a little bit about America's position on this war. Then we're going to get into how Black folks in Ukraine and in Russia and the United States have been treated in the wake of this, and we're going to talk a little bit about the pervasiveness of white supremacy. Despite even it being wartime, white supremacy still rears its head in every element of this. And we're going to talk about even the Brittney Griner situation and how that is also par and parcel to this. We're going to go ahead and additionally discuss our position as political activists on America's foreign policy and what that should look like to kind of package this whole discussion about Ukraine, Russia, and U.S. Blacks and Blacks across the diaspora globally. packages up with America's foreign policy position. And then lastly, in our Whose Mans Is This segment, we're going to talk about our lovely Vice President of the United States. So hang tight with us. We're going to go through a few different things. We're going to unpack this and make this whole thing look like a pretty maybe blue and yellow gift for you. So I apologize, Ernest. I should have got that in, man.
For sure. I appreciate y'all going ahead giving us the opening. So like Darvell said, for the local beat, we're gonna go ahead and just keep it short and sweet. I found out last week that the Detroit Reparations Task Force actually has a survey out, and what they're doing is they're looking for the public's input to determine how the Reparations Task Force of Detroit should move as far as the number of members, who should be the community of eligibility as far as like Detroiters who have been living there for 10 years versus Detroiters who have been living there for 30 plus years. And then not only that, they also ask, I think, for areas of focus where we should, kind of dedicate our efforts. And so what I'll do, Darvell, is go ahead and share my screen real quick just to show the folks what we're looking at. And then that way, you guys can at least know where to go and, definitely fill out this survey for us because it's important that your voice is heard.
Go ahead and switch over to the survey and then I'll pull it up on the screen.
Okay. Yep. So it's important that your voice is heard. So let me know when I'm up, Darvell, on the screen. Up. All right. So if you guys go to Google and you type in Mary Sheffield, Detroit City Council, you'll be brought to this Detroit, Michigan government webpage. And then once you go into it, down at the bottom, there's going to be a section that says, please click the link below to fill out the Reparations Task Force survey. So you'll go ahead and click that. And then once you open that up, you'll be brought into the actual survey. So as you can see, some of the questions that they're asking is how many people should be on the task force? Should the task force members be Detroit residents, which is an important question, of course, who knows the history better than the people who've actually lived there or come from there, right? And then even the same thing, if yes, how long should the Detroiter have been a resident of the city? Should the members only be African-American? I think that's an important question because Detroit, with it being 85% Black, we're this city is in a position where for the first time, Black Americans could solely speak for themselves on the issue that is related to, some of their historical harms and injustices in this nation. And so it's like, if no, what other races should be considered? And then you got these composition questions where you want to know what type of professions they should consider. And I think they allow you to select up to 10. So, from urban planners to union representatives, to youth representatives, health disparity advocates, and all of these other great professions that I guess will be brought into the task force to give their expert opinions and, maybe even, be a part of a study, I guess, like the research or study to, determine the scope or size of this actual reparations program, in the local area of Detroit. So then these other questions, are just pretty broad and simple, your zip code, and anything related to size and eligibility that you would like to share. And so, as you guys know, here at the Freedman Collective, we definitely believe in lineage-based reparations for a number of reasons. You guys can watch our past shows to see exactly why we stand on that. But we would definitely ask for you guys to go ahead and fill out this petition. And if you would be so kindly, when you go ahead down to anything else related to the size or eligibility composition, if you wanted to leave a comment that advocates for lineage-based reparations, I think you could do so. And if you wanted to leave a comment to advocate that the funds come from the federal government, you can do so. And so with that, that's the local beat. This is the Detroit Reparations survey. Or at least that's not the whole local beat, but that's just partial. So, with that, Darvell, I'll actually stop sharing my screen. But I know we had one more other thing on Detroit that we wanted to cover. Stead, did you want to tackle that?
Yeah, you want to talk about that? What's going on with these water cutoffs, man? I heard they trying to fix that or trying to do something about the water cutoffs, Stedman. What the heck is that? You're muted too.
Oh, all
right. See, come on, man.
So they going door to door to try to get people to pay something on their water bills.
What?
You heard? Yeah, they want people to pay something on their water bills. So the Detroit News is saying, I don't have the full article. I don't have to pay for the Detroit News, even though it's only $1 for 6 months.
I'm gonna pull it up. I'm pull it up here. Oh,
but it says the city
is. I don't want nobody to see it.
The city is continuing a moratorium on residential water shutoffs. Oh, this is from 2020. Well, here we'll read this.
I got the 2022 one. They don't want me to see it either.
And working on a plan that would end them permanently. Mayor Mike Duggan and Water Department officials said Tuesday. Detroit Water and Sewage Department Director Gary Brown and Dr. Abdul El Said, the city's former public health director, joined with Duggan to announce the voluntary 2-year extension of the shutoff ban, which was set to expire December 31st. My goal now is to stop water shutoffs to low-income Detroiters once and for all. Duggan said, we have secured the funding necessary to continue this effort through 2022. We are building a coalition to make this permanent. The announcement came the day before a scheduled press conference by the mayor's campaign, where Duggan is expected to indicate whether he plans to run for re-election. This was 2020. So basically, we talked about this before when they switched Flint off the Detroit River water, and they got the city. The city controlled the water system. They got it over with, it's called the Great Lakes Water Association, GLEWA. Now they are having moratoriums. People are not able to keep their water on, and so the city is going to shut their water off. Now, we understand that the pandemic has been going on, so people are already underfunded. There's no money in a city that's already impoverished. I can't remember the exact numbers, but we did a breakdown of home ownership rates in this city and all that stuff, and average incomes levels for this city. It was in Michigan. We did it, I don't know, I can't remember, it was a while ago. And so we already know that the city's impoverished. There's not a lot of home ownership, and the majority of the citizens don't make much more than or are at the poverty line. And so what they're going door to door to try to see if people can put something on the water so they don't shut their water off, because there's a shortfall. I think if you read that Detroit News article, what you could read, I think they said it was a shortage of like $38 million.
Wow.
For the water for the city. And so at one point in time, the city of Detroit controlled this water, and they controlled it for about, I believe, 70% of the state. And so now what they do is they have a contract with GLEWA. I think GLEWA gives the city $50 million, and they handle everything. The city doesn't do anything, but now you're in this position where the citizens are at the disposal of a for-profit, even if it's nonprofit, a corporation that isn't city-owned. So it's no longer a city-controlled utility. It's now, because the city can say, look, we'll just wipe this away because it's our water. You see what I'm saying? And so what they were doing a lot of times is they would push on the extra increase to like Macomb and upper counties, because, if Detroit couldn't pay, we'll just get the money from the counties that can pay, right?
Yeah.
Or the citizens in the suburbs who can pay. We'll push that along and increase everybody's water. Since y'all ain't paying, it'll kind of even everybody out. And so now it's a little bit different story. And this is the mayor people didn't vote for because most people didn't turn out. We had about 11% voter turnout.
Hey, default mayor by default.
Right. This is the situation we're under. So the water and sewage department is going to go door to door to try to see if you can put some money on the water. And I don't think you can, because if you coulda, you woulda by now.
Wow. So, ooh, that's heavy, man. That's
and yeah. So you're going to be in a situation where you don't have access to any water, not even dirty water. And how do kids survive that? How do you clean yourself? How do you cook? How do you drink? How do you flush the toilet? Things, just simple things that we take for granted. How are you able to do that if you don't have water at all? And in a city that used to control its own water, due to the what you call the skullduggery that happens at the top in the political food chain, this is what you have to deal with. So it's up to us to try to get more people involved in voting and activated in the political process. If we could get 20% voter turnout or 30%, maybe we could get somebody else other than Duggan. And the problem is, do we have anybody good enough to replace him? That's the So as much as I want to say we get more people to vote, if we don't have good candidates to vote for, getting more people to participate in a rigged, sham, corrupt process means what? Means you validating that process in a way. So you're really between the rock and the hard place. That's really all I got on it, without being able to read the article.
Yeah. Now, but I mean, it's important, people understand that this whole local election situation, we talk about reparations, we talk about federal stuff, we talk about like today when we talk about a lot of stuff abroad, like over in Europe and the relations between UK, Russia, Ukraine, and the US foreign policy. But these local elections, the county, the city, these things at the state level are what really matter to your ability to keep problems from cropping up just right there. Like we talked about the whole federal, the lack of federal intervention with the Flint water crisis, right? And we seen the whole thing with Obama, and he came up and just basically insulted all those people in his sense of saying that there is nothing wrong with the water. But we didn't even have a governor at the time who was doing the right thing. That's how this really got dragged into such a inflammatory situation, right? So you got all these players who have control on a local level that can ruin your day really quickly, quicker than the president.
And even when you look at the first LGBTQ female attorney general that we have, Kim Worthy was on the board to press charges against anybody for the Flint water crisis. No charges were filed. The former governor, Rick Snyder, is in the process of activating his Fifth Amendment right to self-incrimination, because he's being charged with 2 misdemeanors. I don't think he's being charged with any felonies with his role in the poisoning process. And so it really is the can is being kicked down the road. You got a Democrat governor, a Democratic attorney general, a Democratic secretary of state. First time in like 30 years that Michigan has had that. And black people, ostensibly the voters of the Democratic Party, have nothing to show for it better than when Rick Snyder was in office.
When do we ever, man? When do we ever? You hit a good point though. You were talking about Kim Worthy, right? Prosecutor, right?
Yeah.
That's another player in the overall judicial system, right? Everything from investigation to prosecution to actual incarceration, right? This whole pipeline. And we're going to talk a little later about a very important appointee of the president to a member of a position in this pipeline, right? Ernest, we're going to really get into that. What's her name? Brown?
Yeah, Katanji.
Your voice is a little low. So what we're going to do is talk about. Yeah, you just come up there. So what we're going to do is we got to get into this. We got to get into something else, though. Like we got to get into Mr. Biden, right? So as we walk towards Ukraine, we can't go to Ukraine and skip the White House. you got to walk through DC.
You got to cover that State of the Union, right?
Oh, my goodness. Did y'all see the State of the Union address? That was very important. Failure or success? Would you consider it a success or a failure?
I mean, I would consider it a reminder of what happens when we don't vote for our interest. And so, again, we usually get deprioritized when we look at that Democratic politics. I can't say this. The same could be said of Republicans because we're not a part of that base. But the fact that we have been a part of the Democratic base, the fact that our votes is what secured those elections for those politicians, and even the fact that, like we played the clip where Biden said, as blacks, I got y'all back. Y'all have minds. I'm gonna make sure y'all good. And based on his interpretation of good for black people, we're hearing it's all about HBCUs.
Well, it was crack pipes. He gave you crack pipes. That's good though. I mean,
the first black to do this and that. Yeah, I think that's what.
Give you crack pipes and fund the police the next week. So it's a complete circle.
That's an interesting point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a couple quick clips here. I'm just going to jump around through the video for those who didn't see it. A lot of people did not watch the State of the Union, so don't feel bad if you didn't watch it. A lot of people didn't watch it. This was the lowest rated and lowest watched State of the Union address in recent history. Like for the past 4 presidents, first State of the Union, this is the lowest. Wasn't nobody trying to see Biden. And I looked at this actual video on the White House official YouTube channel. It had only 38,000 views, man. It didn't even have 100. Like nobody, like this is bad. But let's listen to a little bit of this. I'm gonna jump around, then I'm gonna come back to the guys, and we're gonna pack it up with a nice rope made of chalk.
Funding our election. Look, tonight I like to honor someone who dedicated his life to serve this country. Justice Breyer, an Army veteran, constitutional scholar, retiring Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Justice Breyer, thank you for your service. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean it. Get up. Stand, let them see you. Thank you. And we all know, no matter what your ideology, we all know one of the most serious constitutional responsibility a president has is nominating someone to serve on the United States Supreme Court. As I did 4 days ago, I've nominated the Circuit Court of Appeals, Ketanji Brown Jackson. One of our
he was in his head like,
who continue in Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence. A former top litigator in private practice, a former federal public defender, from a family of public school educators and police officers. She's a consensus builder. Since she's been nominated, she's received a broad range of support, including the Fraternal Order of Police and former judges supported by Democrats and Republicans. Folks, if we're to advance liberty and justice, we need to secure our border and fix the immigration system.
So there he has it, right? Ketanji Brown Jackson, right?
Yeah, the interesting thing about that clip, I guess it's a few interesting things. I mean, this is going to be the first Black woman nominated to the Supreme Court, which is a big deal. But at this point in Black politics, I think we've all matured beyond the point of having the first Black this and the first Black that, if it necessarily won't result in any change from a racial standpoint or even from an economic standpoint. At this point, that's just, more symbolism added to the pile. But one of the unique things that Biden said was that the Fraternal Order of Police actually endorsed Ketanji Brown. And I don't know if you guys know the significance of the Fraternal Order of Police, but this would be like the social club, or even like let's just say more so like the political body of all of these police unions. And they actually represent the police unions in many cases or instances when we see these like massive flare-ups where police brutality is brought into the spotlight, or where police and white supremacy is brought into the spotlight. And so I actually got a few articles, Darville, that I do want to share with you guys. Crazy part is that let me just see if I can get these loaded up. But if you guys got anything you want to say, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm just pulling up the articles right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can send me the links also. I don't know if you put them into the document, but at the end of the day, when we talk about her, the Fraternal Order of Police, I mean, who was the last person we heard that was Black that got that? Who's that? Who was that, Stedman? You heard anybody getting that?
Probably Eric Adams, the the new mayor of New York, probably.
Oh, yes. I have a link here. I have a link here. Oh, nope. That's that. Oh, yep. That's actually had that one pulled up. Let's show it. Yep. Let's show that. So this is very important too. Fraternal Order of Police, the voice of our nation's law enforcement officers. FOP National President Patrick Yo's statement on nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson to SCOTUS. Oh, man. This is crazy.
Yeah, so like, the key comments that they're pointing out is Judge Jackson comes from a law enforcement family with two uncles who were career law enforcement officers. One was a Miami-Dade County sex crimes detective, and the other rose through the ranks of the city of Miami Police Department to become the chief of police. Her brother served as an undercover officer in the drug sting unit in Baltimore after graduating from college, so she should know quite well the difficulties and dangers our officers face in the line of duty every single day. And so, that's one of the big key pieces that we need to highlight, is that position that officers are in danger. And so that has to come with immunities, that has to come with protections, because that's the argument of the Fraternal Order of Police, the white Republicans, and even the white Democrats who actually believe that black people protesting.
It ain't even just white though. It ain't even. Let's
throw the immigrant groups in there. Yeah, and that's
if Black Lives Matter is endorsing her, then it's not even. You see what I'm saying? It ain't even just white. It's just it's bad politics on both sides of the aisle, and then they mask it in this identity stuff. So it's like, oh, she's black, she's good, and it's so you just get distracted from the fact that her policies ain't no good or no different. You see what I'm saying?
No, I feel you on that status. So we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there for sure. But like leading up to it, I just want the audience to understand that the Fraternal Order of Police, these were the same people pushing back against Amazon for selling Black Lives Matter actual like branded clothing materials or products on their website. This is the Fraternal Order. Go ahead. I got articles for all of this, but we
I want you to bring them up. But this is interesting. You bring that up now. Gregory's jumping the gun in the comments.
Yeah,
but you can actually buy Ukrainian neo-Nazi paraphernalia on Amazon. And ain't nobody protesting that. But they don't want you to buy Black Lives Matter stuff. I don't agree with the organization at all. We've already stated our opinions about them.
Right. And
made it known.
And that's the thing too. Like, I'm not defending Black Lives Matter, but I'm just pointing out that this is the police union and the actions they've been involved in while Black people have been trying to secure some sort of criminal justice over all of these judicial killings that we've been seeing over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And so, Black Lives Matter, of course, they got the issues definitely with the agenda items we already talked about and discussed. But with this organization, we got a group of police officers who protested schools because there were students who wore Black Lives Matter t-shirts, the Black students. And they said that it's harmful to students who have officers as fathers and people who died in the line of duty, like just completely disregarding the fact that Black people have family members and people they're connected to who have been killed unjustly. And they have a political right by way of the First Amendment to express their views, their opinions, and their speech, so to say, their beliefs.
And this is a tough one for me because generally I'm very pro-union, generally.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, like the police union,
So
they should be able to have a union as it pertains to dealing with the cities they work with. But when you deal with the citizenship, that shit shouldn't work. You know what I'm saying? And so even some teachers unions, I'm not even, some teachers unions, they go too far. I'll let you go.
Yeah. So this is the same fraternal, this is the same Fraternal Order of Police who was against kneeling. So they said if any of their officers are caught kneeling with protesters, that they would take severe actions against them within the organization. Like we have this whole documented, like all of these receipts over the last 10 years to show that the Fraternal Order of Police honestly doesn't believe in Black justice when it comes to the law. And all of these instances from Trayvon Martin all the way down to Philando Castile, getting up to the simple fact of Black kids wearing a BLM t-shirt in school. All of these things are problematic. And the person that they're choosing to endorse is Ketanji Brown, the first Black woman ever endorsed to the Supreme Court. That's problematic. Like if you start looking, and this isn't just the unions in Baltimore, because her father's like from Miami. So the Miami Union, the Miami Fraternal Order of Police have several articles. If you Google them and you type in Black Lives Matter, or if you just type in anything related to racial injustice, they have several instances where the presidents of these unions had to be suspended for making racist posts on Facebook from saying that, Thug Lives Matter, you're just protecting the drug dealers in these communities, from making jokes that these are savage animals protesting, not actual citizens. This is the stuff that's been caught on record and produced in these newspapers from liberal-leaning media companies. Now, The Root had an article, Darvell, that I don't think we shared, but The Root had an article that says the Capitol Police are actually members. I'm going to paste this one in the chat so we can pull it up. Yep, there it is. So this one is the Capitol Police are actually members of a massive hate group, the Fraternal Order of Police. And in fact, most of the people who were insurrectionists on January 6th were police officers or former law enforcement or people who served in that capacity. And most of those folks were part of this union. And so it was revealed that that was what would happen. And you got John Catanzara, who is the president of the Chicago Fraternal Order of Police. He pretty much came out and stated that it was some people who felt like the election was stolen. They didn't destroy property like Black Lives Matter normally does. They were civil. They walked into the Capitol building and they just expressed their rights. So he tried to downplay everything that went on. Again, these are the people who are endorsing Ketanji Brown, hands down, no opposition. Now, when we get to the flip side of this, The Root, they had this article, right? Like Capitol Police are actually members of a massive hate group, the Fraternal Order of Police. Then we got Biden talking about the Fraternal Order of Police has endorsed Ketanji Brown, and that's major. That's something significant. The Fraternal Order of Police also endorsed Trump, and they stood by him on all of his rhetoric and talking points, just like how most people who stand to the right normally do. Another thing, Black Lives Matter also endorsed Ketanji Brown, so similar to what Stedman was saying. Now, Black Lives Matter is probably endorsing on the instance that this is the first Black woman.
Yeah.
And they're ignoring the political facts that the Fraternal Order of Police is backing her, and these people have political interests, and they know the nitty-gritty of who they're dealing with before they actually even give that endorsement. And the fact that Joe Biden, I mean, if we were to play some other clips from the State of the Union, Joe Biden mentioned that the pandemic relief funds that were, stolen by way of fraud, that he's coming to put, they're coming for those people, is what he said. He said there's going to be action taken by the Department of Justice. And he stated that, we're coming for all of these people, so we can expect, some form of penal punishment to come, but understand that funding the police, which was the comments that Biden made, we're coming for these people who committed the fraud. And then the police, the Fraternal Order of Police backed Ketanji Brown, and she comes from a law enforcement background linked to Miami and Baltimore, where we got the Fraternal Order of Police in both of those areas, operating in blind faith against Black interests. Like, this is the reality. And so those are the things I did want to point out. You guys have anything you want to jump in or add or comment?
No, I think you hit it on the head, man. I think when you got those type of organizations co-signing somebody like this, you gotta kind of double check on that. And on top of that, I think that the empty politics of identity affiliation have already shown that they don't serve us. In fact, they can be the number one most pervasive and unrecognized tool against our against our rising of the community. So I think that's always a thing that people overlook, and we end up with empty gas tanks at the end of the day. And now gas costs too much, and Biden don't give a sheep who paying for it. He just gonna do what he think he should do.
And the last three that I wanted to wrap up with, if you go to, so this one, it's got Black Lives Matter. They're doing a little Twitter endorsement of her. That was just a Twitter page, but then on their actual website, they had another one where they actually congratulate her. I'm gonna go ahead and paste that link, Darville. Yep. So in this one, they're pretty much just pumping the idea that Biden nominated her, and they're making it seem like this is a huge win for Black people on the eve of midterms. So they're celebrating this as a win. And you got to keep in mind, Black Lives Matter is supposed to have a specific focus or whatever. But this is something that makes the Democrats look good. They're behind it. And so when it comes to the vote, we need to recognize how this organization is no longer really operating in the interest of Black people, but just more so in the interest of, gaining better position, I guess, in politics about how their group is centered. Because, to basically, put this on the website and then start to champion the fact that this is a political win is, that falsehood that we've been talking about in politics. It's the villain.
These folks here.
This is the thing. This is a joke people made by Hillary Clinton. But this just shows you these people on the left, the liberal-minded, I don't know what you want to call them, they don't actually want anything like justice or equality. What they want is female Black female slave owners. You see what I'm saying? That's what you want. You want a diversification of oppression. You see what I'm saying? Hillary Clinton wanted to say that I, a woman, can be just as evil as any of the men who've done this job. I, a woman, can push the red button like anyone else. Obama. I, a black man, can be just as evil as anybody else who's done this job. That's all it is. It's not about being just or doing anything. It's not even, let's say it was just an America first mentality, right? It still may not be a sense of justice as far as we're concerned with our specific grievances, but you could at least say, well, you guys are doing something for the country. It's beyond that, right? These people are invested in trying their best to steal from the people of all races and all genders and all ideologies. And what they're doing is trying their best to convince anybody who believes in their ideology, whatever their political affiliation, that they're on their side, so you will support what they're doing, like with the police thing. So you have all these people who's pro-police, pro-police, pro-police. But in Canada, when the president or the prime minister of Canada enacted that Emergency Powers Act, the police was busting heads. So how do those pro-police people feel now? Because the police are never going to say that there is anything that they can't justify with is, I'm just doing my job. There's nothing the police can't justify with that phrase. I'm just doing my job. I'm just following orders. There's nothing they can say. So I listen to a lot of libertarians. Y'all heard me say that I'm not a personal libertarian. I listen to a lot of anarcho-capitalist libertarians. And that's one of the things that we can agree on. Because it's not the president, it's not the prime minister, it's not the governor or the mayor who's going to come to your house and take your rights away. It's the police. When you are out in the streets, if you think that the mandates are unjust, if you think that the policies that curtail free speech or the Second Amendment or anything else are unjust, it's not the president that's coming out and taking your rights away. It's the police. If you can't see clear to understand that they stick up for themselves and it's time for you to get your head out of your ass and stick up for your own self because they don't care about you, you're going to be lost. And when it's all said and done with, you're not going to have anybody to blame but yourself. If you keep living under this mentality that, well, Black Lives Matter should have just complied. What about when it's your time? The Canadian police ran over that woman with a horse. She was in a wheelchair, if I'm not mistaken, and a horse trampled over this woman. What about when it's your grandma?
So hold on. So all right, we need to start to move on to the next topic, but you had a good point there. I want to play this one element here from the State of the Union. This sums it up, and then we'll wrap it up. Just listen to this part, and I'm gonna stop.
Violence interruption, trusted messengers breaking the cycle of violence and trauma. Proven strategies like safety.
Yeah, like at 43 minutes, Darby.
That's why the American safety of every community deserves. Like some of you that have been around for a while, I've worked with you on these issues for a long time. I know what works. Investigating crime prevention and community policing, cops who walk the beat, who know the neighborhood, and who can restore trust and safety. Let's not abandon our streets or choose between safety and equal justice. Let's come together and protect our communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable. That's why the Justice Department has required body cameras, banned chokeholds, and restricted no-knock warrants for its officers. That's why the American Rescue Plan that you all provided $350 billion that cities, states, and counties can use to hire more police, invest in more proven strategies. Proven strategies like
Nancy Pelosi was trying to stand up so damn bad.
I know.
I wish she would have broke her
Proven
hips.
strategies like community violence interruption, trusted messengers, breaking the cycle of violence and trauma, and giving young people some hope. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police. Fund them.
Fund them. Fund them.
Hey. Whenever this is going to really tie into what we talk about later. Whenever you have both sides of the aisle agreeing on anything, it's bad for you. Period. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's clean drinking water. If both sides of the aisle agree on it, it's bad for you.
That's a fact.
Oh man, listen, man. Give children hope. Give young people hope through what? Extra policing. Listen, this is who man's is this? Really, this is your man's. This is the man's everybody went out and voted for.
Every time Joe Biden talk, the American people lose.
Black people have been saying this whole time that our communities are over policed, and you want to add more police. That's the answer.
This is what you voted for.
But
everybody who voted for this man, everybody who voted for this man voted for this.
And listen,
everybody who thought that this was worse than Trump voted for this. You voted for this asshole.
Listen, these folks, right? This is who you need. This is what you need to deal with. This woman here, my man's here, my man's here. I don't know who this is. Her, all these cats need to go. Anybody who clapping to that need to go. This is what happens. Ketanji Brown Jackson gonna be more the same. She's gonna be clapping for this.
You paused it at an interesting part. Look at Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz, happy as hell.
Look, he like hell yeah.
They're like, we gonna do it. More jobs for whites. That's what we're gonna do.
Lindsey Graham probably want to kiss Ted Cruz. If you know, you know.
Shit, McConnell right there. He like, let me get up and clap for that one.
Yeah, man. Like this is the right stuff, man.
This is actually, it reminds me of an interesting thing. So we didn't get to do it when we did the show last week. But so the Prime Minister of Canada, the Liberal Prime Minister, everybody loved him when they said he was the new president of America, or they was talking about how they wished he could be the president of America when Trump was president. When he was taking people's rights away in Canada, instituting an Emergency Powers Act to strip people of their right to peacefully protest. This guy, he has taken pictures in blackface. He's taken more than twice, I believe. He's taking pictures in blackface. Yeah, as an adult. As an adult, he's worn blackface as an adult. He was born in 1973, if I'm not mistaken. So this was in the 1990s. And so they do a resolution in the parliament in Canada. And it said, so the conservatives, they do this a lot. They say, we want to stand up and say that we like a formal motion that we want to basically say that blackface is bad. And we want to have a vote on it, to a formal motion saying that, we impugn anyone who does blackface. And so the liberals in Canada all have to vote it down, and the conservatives all vote for it, because if they vote it down, then they have to say that their prime minister that's in their party who did blackface is a bad person. So that's how political ideology works. You have to agree to some shit that you don't believe in, or accept something you don't believe in, because a person who belongs to your party does it.
Wow.
That's the position of black congressional representatives.
Yeah, that's exactly what CBC is standing in, right?
In the Republican and Democratic Party.
Well, did we confirm? We confirmed that Ketanji is actually Freeman, right? I heard that was confirmed.
I think I seen that in the chat from you guys.
Yeah,
so
as far as I could find, that was the case. I couldn't find anything to discern that she wasn't. So it's one of ours.
I know her parents. I heard her parents were like South African, maybe.
I don't know. Coming up in Miami, it's a little tricky. I don't know.
Yeah,
I can find nothing.
I don't know.
I found nothing.
Right. So let's just assume. Look, this is the kickback of us being the majority. We could go ahead and make an 85% assertion that she could be.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. All right. So, yeah, it says several reports say that they're like South African. All right, whatever. All right. So we need to get into the next thing, though. This is a big deal takeaway. She's a questionable individual. Biden's already super questionable. Anything Biden touches become really sketchy. And yeah, this turned out to be a pretty sketchy pick. So she'll probably make it through confirmation. That's the and we're not here to like push back on black women. We just need people who represent our actual interests, not just the optics of what we might want. We already should know better from Obama. We should already know better from Obama.
You should know better from Kamala Harris at this point.
Woo, man.
You should know better from Clarence Thomas. You should know better from every black person in government who don't do nothing, which is all of them, because they're not going to do nothing if they get into government. So every single one of them, they're all trash, bro. They trash. Stop falling for this. Stop falling for it. If the people aren't willing to, if they don't have a record, and even if some of the people got a record, make them earn your vote. Make them say something that's, really hard line.
Yeah. So, well, let's stop on that one for a moment and let's get into this next topic. We need to talk about this Russia-Ukraine conflict, y'all.
Yeah, I was going to say, for the State of the Union, the first 10 minutes of what they're talking about is probably like where most of their focus is. And so for the first 5 minutes, first 10 minutes, Biden definitely attacked Russia and definitely uplifted Ukraine. They're noble people, all of that, Russia's a bully, all of these things. I think that was interesting. But if you wanted to go ahead and open up with one of those clips from the articles, I think that's a good starting point.
Sure. Let's go ahead and pop into that. Let's look at one of these clips. Ernest has so graciously hit us with. Was it one that you put in my? No, it's one in the thing, huh?
No, yeah, from Stead.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and pull this up.
I'd like to do a bit. It's a lot.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
So we're going to be talking about Russia-Ukraine situation. And so first, I'd like to kind of set the stage. Why do the U.S. and Russia not get along? It goes all the way back to the Soviet times, and maybe even before that, honestly. But specifically, the U.S. didn't like Russia because, the Soviet Union, because of their communist ideology. I remember being in school, and a teacher told us that communism was the opposite of capitalism. And he kind of tried to explain to us what communism was, and he didn't really do a good job. And I never was really expressed what was so bad about communism at that age. But as we've talked about on the show, even with free speech, when you look at why someone, when you look at ideology, when an ideology is bad, right? The argument typically is if something is bad, it's self-evident. It's self-evidently bad. Or you should be able to have a well-reasoned, thought-out discussion with the person about this versus that and come to a conclusion on their own, unsolicited, uncoerced, about what makes more sense. And so this has not been the case with respect to communism and America and Russia and the West, as they call it, and the interaction between the two or the three or the multipolar interaction between them. So this is a little bit of the background. We'll get more into it. We'll talk a little bit more about it. But this clip here, the first clip that's right under there, it looks at some of the tensions between the U.S. and Russia, and I'll give a little bit more context. It's like 3 minutes. It's from a documentary that I hope we can go over on this channel. I'd like us to kind of break down. We'll do a little watching stream with.
Yeah, no. I think the clip you gave me is no longer up. We're not talking about the fascism history from RT, are we?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I didn't put him in the. I left him in the what you call it? I left him in the run a show.
Yes, that's where I got it.
Yeah,
okay.
All my stuff is in the run a show.
Okay, let's get it. Wait, no, this is a 55-minute clip, sir. Oh, from 7.
No, yeah, you started at the 27-minute mark. Yeah.
My bad.
We're about to watch it right now.
Yes, sir. All right. Cool. Let's see it.
And I want to say fair use, but I doubt RT is going to be giving us too much trouble these days.
You mean? Don't say that.
Hey, they got it.
All right, let's listen.
Japan, it was dropped on the Soviet Union as a warning of what was going to happen to the Soviets if they interfered with America's post-war plan.
On November the 3rd, 1945, just a month after the war ended, the US Joint Chiefs of Staff receive report number 329. Select 20 targets to attack in the Soviet Union with nuclear bombs. The time was right, as the USSR was devastated by war.
The United States lost about 400,000 people, and the Brits lost less than the Americans did, and the Soviets suffered 27 million deaths. $27 million is an incredible number. When John Kennedy gave his American University commencement address in 1963, he said that what the Soviets suffered in World War II was the equivalent of the entire United States east of Chicago having been destroyed.
Initially, the plan to attack the USSR was codenamed Trojan. Over time, it evolved into Pincher, Bushwhacker, Crankshaft, Half Moon, Cogwheel, Off Tackle, and Charioteer. December the 19th, 1949 saw the adoption of the best-known plan to wipe out the Soviets. Operation Dropshot. Date of attack, January the 1st, 1957. The plan outlined the complete annihilation of the USSR under the democratic guise of liberating the nations from communism. But those very nations would be wiped out along with communism. The first phase of Operation Dropshot envisaged dropping 300 nuclear and 250,000 tons of conventional bombs on the Soviet Union. 100 Soviet cities were pre-selected as targets. The second phase. The USSR is attacked by 250 NATO divisions. Soviet ports are taken over by NATO naval forces. The third phase. Annihilating the USSR, wiping it off the world map. To that end, all known weapon types are to be deployed: nuclear, chemical, radiological, and biological, as well as small arms. The final phase. Breaking the USSR into 4 zones and posting NATO troops on its territory. More than 80 million people. The majority of the huge country's population would have died in the intense bombing and subsequent fighting.
We have a series of these kinds of war plans. When Kennedy briefed on them in the early 1960s, he was horrified. You know, he said, we call ourselves the human race. But these plans continued for preemptive.
He said, mute it real quick, Darby. Yeah, I was going to say, let's just say if they would have went through with any of those plans, I don't believe we would have been getting reparations anytime soon. they just probably had got just as bold with us. Shit.
Shoot. Like, we're going to drop it on them. Boom.
Still, Joe, audio messed up. We can't even hear you.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, there you go.
I said, so this is kind of the heart of the situation. The issue with Russia, and there's another clip I have that kind of goes into other detail. It says why Ukraine shouldn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's lower down, though. It breaks down that for a lot of Europe, Western Europe specifically, Russia was too big. If you look at other European countries, they have, 40, 50 million people. They're approximately yay big, all within one time zone. You could drive through any of them within a matter of hours, right? Except for Russia. Russia's 11 time zones. It goes from Europe to Asia. It's humongous. And the USSR incorporated even more countries because it was the United Soviet Socialist Republic. So it was all these different socialist countries, these different communist nations came together to form one union. Okay. And so this is ultimately the reason that the USSR has been such a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Russia is such a threat because of its immense size. It goes from Poland or the Baltic Sea to the Sea of Japan.
Yeah.
And so there was always a fear in the West of Europe, that Russia would attempt to have more of an empirical mind and move further west. Sorry.
Yeah.
The United States dislikes Russia and the USSR because the USSR poses a threat to U.S. world hegemony through their strong military and nuclear weapons capabilities that rival our own, and simultaneously because of their size and their proximity to Europe, right? They have gas, they have oil, they're the largest exporter of wheat or grain in the world. So if the USSR or Russia today and the West had more friendly relationship post-World War II, it would put the U.S. at a severe disadvantage because the U.S. could not exert as much hegemonic control on the world.
They need a boogeyman, as they say.
Right. And I would like to say this too, just another commentary. As you can see, and you'll see this more as we continue through this conversation, every country on earth that is kowtowing to U.S. sanctions or directives or pressure, whether it's the West, from Germany to France to UK, in Europe, gas is already the highest it's ever been now. It's something like $3,000 per cubic kilometer or something. 3,000 euros per cubic kilometer or something like that, a cubic liter or something like that, whatever they measure natural gas in. But none of those countries are willing to stand up to America. But freedmen, for 400 years, have stood up to this country and its government for justice. I don't know to what end, because as Ernest was saying, if Russia got nuked, we wouldn't get reparations. And you couldn't hear me because I had my mic muted. But I think that's a sign that we're never going to get reparations. And I say that with a heavy heart, because what we're fighting is insurmountable. And the enemy is getting more and more strong every day, and we are getting weaker and weaker every day. So
that's I don't know about that.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
Yeah, nah.
We're gonna still get it, man.
Yeah, nah.
I'm
not saying don't fight.
I was saying in the scenario, if that would have occurred, that I'm not saying don't politically fight for something that happened to us, and they done wiped off a damn 1/3 of the globe. You know, that would
I ain't saying not for fight. I'm fighting. I'm here with y'all. I'm here 100%. Brother, this shit here.
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, no, let's not sell that. We're not selling those cookies to nobody. We got to make sure, that we stay focused. I think when it comes to reparations, here's the thing, how I say it. When it comes to reparations, if reparations will result in this country catching fire and blowing up because we have to fight it that hard, then it shouldn't have existed in the first place. And it should not exist today. Go ahead.
America will not continue to exist when we get reparations. That's the country will cease to exist.
Because it's gonna fall apart.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, remember Indiana Jones when he had to take that statue and he got that piece of sand back and he tried to get an equal weight, and it's gonna be like that. It's gonna just fall apart around our feet, like Aladdin when he was in a cave of wonders and Abu picked up that jewel and everything melted. That's what's gonna happen.
And again, that tells you right there that it should not exist as it is today. Sort of like you 100%. Talked about that Ukraine shouldn't exist, right? Because it was made from a whole bunch of bullshit, just like this was made from a whole bunch of bullshit. But what happens is when you have a hierarchical system and we're on the bottom, the people on the top or anybody who's above us benefit from it, and they think that this is the best world on earth in this country. So they're like, why would you discontinue the U.S.? Well, ask the black people who the U.S. was built on top of, why the U.S. shouldn't continue. I'm not here trying to start any type of insurgency, or what do we call that? What's the thing?
Hey, you better put up one of your cards.
Yeah,
I know you got a card. Man. You better put a card up.
We're not here trying to do anything crazy.
You better put a card up. Red alert.
But
we're just having our First Amendment discussions over here.
Yeah. But that's the thing. We're not here trying to support no Trump views or anything. We're not doing that. And these are our opinions. We're not here to try to push on anybody anything or try to represent the Freedman channel in a different way than what it should be. But it's just that I do believe that if this world exists, this country exists on our backs in an unjust way, when we stand up, if it falls apart, that's just what's going to happen. I'm not saying I'm here advocating for that. I think it's possible to do right by us and not destroy the whole country. But I think that when people fight back, similar to how Putin told the folks in Ukraine, don't fight back, put the weapons down. He said, don't do this. It will be a very bad thing if you fight back. And they fought back.
Look at that clip. Look at that video, why Ukraine shouldn't exist. It's 8 minutes. You don't have to watch it all. But the beginning is going to lay some of the groundwork of why Ukraine is where it is and why it is too.
Yeah. You got anything, Ernest?
No. We could play that clip. I only want to play the clip from the one that Stedman had sent us earlier to get the professor's response to where the U.S. fits in Ukraine and Russia. So there was a black host who asked the question. I think we could play that. It's only like
that's in the running
2
show
minutes.
too. It's that should be so that's it's in the running show.
Yep. So
I can post
right.
I'll post the link to it in the
I'm trying to find the why Ukraine shouldn't exist video.
It's right under the one we just watched.
Oh, that link doesn't work.
Oh, it don't?
No, it stopped working. YouTube said when I went to it, the video isn't available anymore. I had shared that video though. Why did the video go away? I shared the video once myself as well. Or I think I got it
5 years old.
Well, so they not taking down it. I bet you someone told them to take it down. Why Ukraine shouldn't exist? It wasn't a big deal until now. Somebody trying to get rid of Ukraine. Now they don't want no videos up there. The video.
Let me see. Maybe that was just an error.
Hold on. Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, I'm sure I can find it. Let's see. Y'all, excuse us. We apologize for this intermission here. Oh, here. I think I found it. Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
I found it. Yep. Let me play that one. It's a 3-minute redo. I mean, it's a 3-minute extension where he kind of talk about. So we're gonna do that one.
Oh, I thought it was like 8 minutes. All right, that's good. Yeah, we can play.
Wait a minute. Now I found another one. Yeah, there's another one that's an extension. It's only 3 minutes. I think we can look at it real quick.
Yeah.
So let's watch this, y'all, so you understand a little bit more about this Ukraine situation.
In my video, Countries That May Soon Disappear, I said Ukraine was never meant to exist. This seems to have angered a lot of Ukrainians, so I thought I'd make it clear exactly what I meant, because the Ukrainian question has, and has always had, some interesting implications.
This video is 5 years old.
What I meant is that Ukraine wouldn't exist right now if it wasn't for Western intervention. It would be a historical and ethnic region, but not an independent state. It was created at the end of World War I with the goal of weakening Russia. The Germans and Austrians always saw Russia as a threat, but they knew Russia would only pose a threat as long as it controls Ukraine. With Ukraine, Russia was a major world power. Without it, Russia was much more weak, and the same could be said today. That's why Russia annexed Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula 2 years ago. Vladimir Putin needs Ukrainian land if Russia hopes to compete with NATO in any real way. But that's a different video. Germany and Austria wanted an independent Ukrainian state in between them and Russia, a buffer state to defend their interest. They put huge effort into encouraging the Ukrainian independence movement, which did exist already, but it was weak. With Austrian support, Ukrainian independence from Russia was declared in 1918 after years of secret planning. Their plans were never admitted, but if you don't believe me, listen to this. The Austrian foreign minister was a man called Leopold Berchtold. In 1914, he said, "Our main objective in this war is the long-term weakening of Russia, and therefore, if we win, we will set about creating a Ukrainian state independent of Russia." They believe the only way to diminish the threat of Russian invasion was to do this. It's no coincidence Ukraine declared independence so soon after Russia surrendered to the Austrians. That's what I meant when I said Ukraine was never meant to exist. It only did due to German and Austrian intervention. I was specifically referring to modern Ukraine. By the dawn of the 20th century, the Austrian monarchy was quite weak, so they protected their interests through careful scheming. This was just one example. Modern politicians could use that kind of thinking, but they're too dumb. So I just wanted to clarify this in a short video. Ukraine shouldn't exist.
And the significance of what he's talking about is access to the Black Sea. Right? Russia doesn't have access to the Black Sea without Ukraine. Now, what he's talking about with the annexation of Crimea, Crimea was historically Russian anyway. Okay? Russia gave Crimea to Ukraine when the Soviet leader, I think it was Nikita Khrushchev, who was Ukrainian, he just arbitrarily did it. Even the Eastern Ukrainian region, Donbass region, the reason there's so many Russian-speaking people there is because that was Russia at one point in time. They just arbitrarily gave that land to Ukraine. And so this is why you hear in the media so many people talking about, we're going to fight for Ukraine. This is our land. Because you keep hearing this, it's like, there's got to be something going on. Why do they keep talking about our land, our land? Why do they keep talking about fighting for my country? This is why the shit shouldn't exist. If you look on a pre-World War I map, Ukraine ain't on the map. Now, there's a lot of other countries that's not on the map either. But the significance of that is what I'm saying is there is no country called Ukraine. Ukrainian people do not exist organically. Ukraine, the country that we know of today, is made up of Polish or land from Poland and land that they received from Hungary and land that they received from Russia and other land that was in the east of Europe. Okay, Eastern Europe is made up of a lot of Slavic people, Russians, Poles, Belarusians. That's why they all speak a similar language, and they were a nomadic people. They didn't have a very solid land. So it's a much different than Western Europe, where you had a much more codified grouping of people, the French, the Spanish, the Italian. But if you look, so you see that? These countries, Poland, before World War I, Germany and Poland were one country. And Hungary, Slovakia, Austria, it was called Austria-Hungary. It was one country. The Czech Republic, the part of Ukraine, Moldova didn't exist. So the significance of what I'm telling you is that world powers, Western world powers, and the U.S. today saw it advantageous to them try to find a pre-World War I map. They found it advantageous to them to weaken Russia. Russia was the reason they have socialized medicine in Europe and a lot of countries is because of Russia. In 1917, so you heard after World War I, right? 1918, Ukraine had their independence. The country formed. In 1917, there was the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. So what happened after the Bolsheviks won power in Russia? There was the Communist Revolution. Okay, then the Russians and the Ukrainians came together, and they joined the Soviet Union again. So then it was one country again. Right? This is, and so then we're going to get into find a World War I map right quick, because we got to understand when they talk about the Nazification of Russia, I mean the Nazification of Ukraine, the heavy Nazi presence, it's going to be significant because people in the west of Ukraine and the east of Ukraine have a different ethnic makeup. They speak the same language. Some of them speak Ukrainian, but the reason you see them speaking Russian in the east, they have a different ethnic makeup. Those people that they got were Polish, Hungarian, Austrian, in the area that you know of Slovakia and the Czech Republic today. They have a different racial, because the Nazis targeted the Slavs too. The word slavery comes from Slav. The Slavic people were treated as slaves, and even to this day, British people don't like Polish people right now. They used to have signs up 4 or 5 years ago saying no Polish people in the UK, in England. So Eastern Europeans are treated significantly worse than Western Europeans. Look at this map. That's the Austro-Hungary. See? Ukraine is not on the map. It don't exist. It doesn't exist.
It still didn't.
New nations, it still doesn't exist. But you see how Germany looked? There's no Poland. There's no Slovakia. Austria and Hungary were one country. Because the Czech Republic and Slovakia were one country, Czechoslovakia. They didn't split until the 90s. Clinton bombed the shit out of them people in, I believe it was Serbia. What was his name? I'm drawing a blank on his name now. In 99, NATO bombed them. So this is a very long process of empire that we're talking about. Right? It's not a cut and dry, Putin's just coming here trying to wreak havoc. NATO exists. I got another article there talking about NATO. NATO exists. NATO exists. It's a defensive organization, a defensive, offensive, military alliance with Western Europe, Canada, and the United States that was used to try to build a wall of protection or defense or offense around the USSR and limit its influence around the world. The USSR, when they took control of Russia, Russia had a monarch. It was actually, I believe it was Queen Victoria's cousin or son. The Queen of England right now was her uncle, the guy that made the movie Anastasia. That was Anastasia's father. He got murdered. Now, Anastasia, the movie was a fiction. Okay? The king, the emperor of Russia, was the Tsar. They called him a Tsar. Comes from Caesar, the same title as Caesar. He was a horrible man. The people were poor. They were abused. There was famine. It was cold. And so when there was a Bolshevik revolution, it was a workers' revolution. It was a workers' uprising. What that did was the west of Western Europe, they realized that they stood a threat to a worker uprising in their country, so they had to give concessions. So that's why they offered universal health care. That's the reason. That's why they offered a lot of those what we take, they're losing them now, but a lot of those social benefit programs they have in Western Europe, it's a direct result of the influence of the Soviet Union and the policies that they implemented in their country.
That's an interesting point. The Soviet Union influenced the rise of universal health care.
Right. And so when we look at this, because we're American, we grew up in America, they want to tell us a certain story and give us a certain perspective. They tell us these things one way. It's not that way. It's never that way. Even if, like they said, oh, Russia's going to invade Ukraine. They were correct, but the reasons they was correct was wrong. So there's a reason why you can be right and have the wrong reason.
Yeah.
So,
propaganda.
Right.
Yeah, so I understood it to be this way, right? First of all, there's this whole Nord Stream situation, right? And so Nord Stream, exists Nord Stream 1, and they just built and finished Nord Stream 2. Right. The issue was that, and I'm just giving my reasons that I knew of why Russia really needed to take or wanted to take control of Ukraine. Nord Stream, although this pipeline was a direct run, they wanted to ensure that if Nord Stream 2 or even Nord Stream 1 were put in jeopardy, they would not, the rest of Western Europe would not be able to fall back on Ukraine's old pipework that goes from Russia through Ukraine, and Ukraine become a hostile state. So they wanted to maintain that control. Also, of course, we talked about the Black Sea. Also, we talked about NATO, right? And the idea that they wanted the buffer, just like the French wanted the buffer from them, right? Originally. And right. There's also the as was discussed in the video, the resources that are in Ukraine, the natural resources that are in Ukraine that Russia needs in order to maintain their world dominance. That's another thing. So if you have any type of Western leaning power in Ukraine, the West can start to influence Ukraine to not do business with Russia, especially if they want to separate away from them and get into NATO or the EU. But I mean, again, this is not me being like, censored, like, Russian, sympathizing or anything, but these are the reasons I had heard.
You're a Russian apologist. That's they've been using that.
Here's the thing with the Nord Stream 1. The Nord Stream 1 goes through Ukraine, but it still connects to gas from Russia. It was built when Ukraine was a part of the USSR, so it was all one country. The same with Chernobyl being there, the same with the Ukraine having nuclear weapons and all that stuff. Nord Stream 2 is just going to connect directly from Russia to Germany. So it's going to cut out the middleman. And the only reason why that middleman is important is because it allows Russia to have more say over a direct pipeline to fund in Germany instead of having to deal with the middleman in Ukraine. Ukraine does have some natural resources, but Russia still, by and large, is the largest or the second largest possessor of natural oil and gas in the world. And this is a side note, but the Koch brothers' father actually went to Soviet Russia under Stalin and set it up. He was trying to do it here, but either it was Standard Oil and I think it's the Rockefellers, they did it or something, whatever. That's how they made all their money, the Koch brothers. They made all their money from Soviet Russia. He said that what Stalin was doing over there was so terrible, so that's why he left. But it's funny you didn't get none of that money back. But that's another story. But so that's the situation. Ultimately, and Ernest wants to play that clip. Ultimately, it's a matter of security for Russia and Ukraine. One of the things that was said about Russia, they have fought a lot of wars. They beat Napoleon. They beat the Germans. They beat or the Nazis, then the Germans. And so what ends up happening is Stalin says they never want to fight another war on Russian soil again. And so they need Ukraine. They needed Belarus and Latvia and Lithuania and Estonia because that set a buffer. That way they knew, hey, if somebody coming here, we'll know because y'all got to pass through Belarus and Ukraine and Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia to get to us first. U.S. ain't never fought a war against an antagonistic power on its own shores. The American Revolution, the War of 1812, the Civil War, what else? You see what I'm saying? Like he told you, Russia lost 27 million people, and the country was burned down. Eastern and Western Europe was destroyed after World War II. The significance of all this, though, you want to play that clip?
Which clip are we talking about, Ernest?
It's a clip that Stedman he put a YouTube video.
A full video of the Blackness Forum.
Yeah. So you go to 6 minutes. Go to 6 minutes and 20 seconds. That's where it starts. The question, and then you can just listen to the guy response. The question is, like they tried to kind of frame it in a sense, like Stedman said, without the context for why Russia is doing what it's doing. And so the question is being posed to
Putin is just doing something crazy. And this is significant for Friedman, Michael. So I hope you're still listening because it wraps up into what we're trying to do. So you need to stay focused, and I hope you're still here.
Yep.
Take us back a little bit. What does Putin want? And why is Ukraine, certainly right now they need some help. So of course they want the NATO, they want EU, but I think it goes back more than that, basically on what Putin wants out of all of this.
Well, based upon the speeches that I've heard from Russian President Putin and the other interviews that he's done and things that he said, what he wants is very simple. He wants security. He wants the United States to live up to the agreement that the United States made back in 1991 when the Soviet Union agreed for the reunification of Germany, East and West. And the United States promised the Soviet Union that NATO would not expand any further eastward than Germany. And now when you look at a map of Europe, Russia is surrounded by Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria. These are all NATO countries with U.S. troops, NATO forces, NATO missiles. And Vladimir Putin has been saying very clearly for 20 12, 13 years. We're only going to let you go so far. And the United States is using Ukraine as a proxy. And he drew the line in the sand, and we are where we are.
Is the
Zelensky
U.S. using
is a desperate guy.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
He's a desperate guy. He just, he's following the U.S. directive. Go back to March or May when the United States encouraged Zelensky to send troops to the border, and Joe Biden wound up having to call Zelensky and have those troops withdrawn. Zelensky is following the U.S. narrative the same way the Kurds did when they were encouraged to fight Saddam Hussein, and we know what happened to them.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the strategy of Putin in surrounding Ukraine. Some would say, in particular, folks in our own country.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
So understanding that with the context of that video we watched, where they were trying to invade Russia from air and land and sea, what is the significance of that? And how do you expect a man to allow his country to be surrounded by enemy forces? Now, BB, I just told Michael, and I hope you stay along long enough to listen. You can call in if you disagree, but this fits into the Freedmen's agenda, and you got to just read between the lines, please.
Yeah, I think that, just to be clear, like he's saying, anybody who's wandering around the comment section talking about this is off topic, you need to stick around to the very end, because this plays very harmoniously into how we navigate and deflect around distractions, because this is part of the bigger scheme of the U.S. government anyway. So you really need to know what's going on as we try to push forward reparations. Sorry, go ahead, Stedman.
So one of the main things that Dr. Wilmer Leon said is that Putin's going there to denazify and demilitarize the country. BB, just keep listening, please. So what's happening, right? Ukraine has a history of Nazis. I just told you, and I'm going to show you. Western Ukraine was part of Germany. They have Nazi collaborators with the Nazi Germany, right? And they still have Nazis there today. It's one of the strongholds of white nationalism globally is Ukraine. Okay, to this day. Okay, there was an America. Pull that Wikipedia article up. It's called Operation Paperclip. A lot of people don't know about it.
Yeah, I've seen Operation Paperclip. Yeah.
Operation Paperclip is when they took Nazi German scientists and Nazi German scientists. They brought them to America, changed their names, gave them new identities on the promise, promise that they would work with the U.S. government to help with rocket production. Because the Germans had invented rocket jet propulsion with their aircraft. So Operation Paperclip was a secret United States intelligence program.
At COINTELPRO.
1,600, I'm conspiracy brother, don't forget. More than 1,600 Nazi German scientists, engineers, and technicians were taken from former Nazi Germany to the U.S. for government employment after the end of World War II in Europe between 1945 and 1959. Conducted by the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency, it was largely carried out by special agents of the U.S. Army's Counterintelligence Corps. Many of these personnel were former members, and some were former leaders of the Nazi Party. The primary purpose for Operation Paperclip was U.S. military advantage in the Soviet-American Cold War and the space race. In a comparable operation, the Soviet relocated more than 2,200 German specialists, a total of more than 6,000 people, including family members, with Operation whatever, I don't speak that, during one night on October 22nd, 1946. In February 1945, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, SHAEF, set up a T-Force or Special Sections Division, which grew to be over 2,000.
Sorry.
That's enough. So what you see is that America has a long and storied history of not only working with white supremacists in our nation, but around the world. And how does that apply to Ukraine today? I've already told you they was Nazis, right?
When we talked about that.
We funded those Nazis, right? Okay. So now, if you want to come down, in 2014, the U.S.-backed far-right-led revolution in Ukraine is skipping a couple things because you already pulled the NATO up and all that. I mean, you could put the Joe Biden video up as Joe Biden saying how NATO forgot about this promise not to expand. If you want a 2-minute clip, it gives us a little relevance.
We can skip that, but I think we understand that.
So when we understand in Ukraine and the Nazi situation, the U.S. funded a coup in Ukraine in 2014 that overthrew a democratically elected president and installed a president that they wanted to have in his place. Yatsenyuk. You heard Joe Biden mention him. I went and talked to Yatsenyuk, and I told him I wasn't going to give him the money. And he said, well, you can't say that. Obama did. And I said, well, call him. And remember, he said, son of a bitch. He gave us the whatever. Yatsenyuk is the guy they had to replace, and then a couple different other people. That's not the point. The point is the United States government has funded Nazis in Ukraine to this very day. They want American soldiers, white American soldiers, and they're going to be relocating Ukrainians as immigrants, as refugees to America. Where do you think them Nazi white supremacists is going to be going? Your neighborhood of mine, BB. Your neighborhood of mine, Michael Jordan.
Interesting.
Where you think they're going to be going? Whose neighborhoods are you going to have to sharing your homes with? Whose schools is your kids going to be having to go to school with? You going to have Nazis living next door to you or no?
Yeah, they certainly ain't going to send them to Sterling Heights.
So here, I'm not going to read the whole thing. This is from Jacobin Magazine. A U.S.-backed far-right A U.S.-backed far-right-led revolution in Ukraine helped bring us to the brink of war. In 2014, Ukraine, great power gamesmanship, righteous anger at a corrupt status quo, and opportunistic far-right extremists toppled the government in the Maidan coup. I refuse to call it a revolution. Today's crisis in Ukraine can't be understood without understanding Maidan. It's January, a defiant crowd of protesters and a jumble of bodies where far-right extremists rub shoulders with everyday people wants the head of the elected president. They chant anti-government slogans, occupy government buildings, and carry arms. Some of them makeshift melee weapons, some of them hunting rifles and Kalashnikovs. By the time AKs. By the time it's all said and done, the demonstrations will lead to the death and hospitalization of both protesters and police. It's not the Capitol riot in Washington that so horrified Americans and foreign observers in 2021. This was the Ukrainian Maidan coup, or Euromaidan, which right around this time, 8 years ago, actually succeeded in toppling the country's elected government, sending the president, Viktor Yanukovych, fleeing for his life to neighboring Russia. Nearly a decade on, the 2014 Revolution of Dignity, as they call it, as it's known in Ukraine, remains one of the more widely misunderstood episodes of recent history. Yet understanding it is critical to understanding the ongoing standoff over Ukraine, which can largely be traced back to this polarizing event, depending on who you ask, an inspiring liberal revolution or a far-right coup d'etat. And here's the greater point, right? It's not only so much that the U.S. is continuing to work with Nazis and far-right organizations. And I wish I had the report, but I didn't. And in 2006, the FBI released a report that far-right groups had infiltrated law enforcement all around the country. It's not just that. It's not just that. BB, they're coming to the black community and they'll be in your police. They'll come into the black community and they'll live in your neighborhood because they'll get the vouchers to live in your community. And they'll let them live there and drive you out of town. And then they'll make sure that the white people buy up all the property, BB. You got
how the Irish became white.
You got to open your eyes up. They're gentrifying black communities, BB.
We don't get a strong
call. They're gentrifying black communities. Who wouldn't you put in there but the worst of the worst white trash from Eastern Europe that you can find to drive the black people out of the neighborhood so they can put good white people in there when they drive the Eastern Europeans out?
See,
but
that's how it works. That's how it works. So
Russia has been silenced. And the significance of that is minor in general, because I'm black and I don't live in Russia and I don't care about Russia in general. But what does that say when the global apparatus has stepped in lockstep to speak to stop the voices of dissenting opinion. How's the black man in America, how is the freedman in America going to find justice in this world when at any moment America can call the dogs and the dogs will come howling? You think you're going to get to vote reparations in? You think you're going to march reparations in? You think you're going to sit in reparations in? And it's not going to work. I had a revelation a couple weeks ago, and this is what I learned. Tell me if I'm off base, fellas. Tell me if I'm off base. But what do we value in Martin Luther King and Malcolm X? What do we value in Medgar Evers? What do we value? They were willing to give their lives up for the people. The Black Panthers were willing to die for what they believed in. Correct? Right or wrong?
That's the focus.
But what do the people we fighting against value? They value that at any moment they will take your life and won't think twice about it. So our values is off because we fighting against people who don't give a shit about us, and we willing to give up our lives. We're never going to get nowhere. Now, I'm not telling you to go get no gun or no nothing, but what I want you to know is you fighting a losing game.
So wait a minute.
The people that you want to fight against want your life, and the people that you look up to taught you to give your life away, and that's not how you win.
Ernest.
So yeah, I was gonna say, Stead, I think you was on point, and then you was off point too, and the reason why I say that is
you
because
tell me whatever. Hey, look.
Yeah, I say it like how you said. We got to be willing to fight, and so a lot of people in the reparationist space have realized this is going to be the political ground that we're willing to die on. And even the same with like Martin Luther King, he never even advocated for punching somebody, and he still got killed for talking the right politics. So I think that's the aim or the focus we got for now. But like you said, it is real. Like if none of these political realities can be achieved, then Black Americans are in the point where besides cannibalizing ourselves, it would be at a greater extent to the American economy or even to the American government at some point in this future. We just got to see how dire our people could get, or I guess how dire of a situation we could be placed in. And then even in Michigan, looking at Flint, Benton Harbor, looking at situations where the people have been poisoned by way of the water. If political solutions aren't offered diplomatically, of course it's going to be offered a different way. And that's something that all governments, all people have witnessed and experienced. The question is, will we win or not? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, I get what you're saying. As far as reparations, though, I know this is like the hill I want to die on. But if it ain't gonna work politically, I ain't gonna be on TV saying I've been supporting the other wing. But definitely, I already know the context. I'm just saying.
I don't want nobody to give up. I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't want nobody to give up. But what I want you to know is if you in or not. That's what I want you to think about. Are you in or not? Because everybody want to be in to write letters to their congressman. Everybody want to be in to hold up picket signs and buy T-shirts and face masks with slogans on it. But are you in? These people have shown you in this last 2 weeks that they can take the truth and turn it into a lie in front of your eyes.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I think I just want to say something also, just to be clear. I think what we're saying here is that we have no intention, and we will never broadcast or insinuate or otherwise promote anything short of achieving reparations. That is the position of this show, of this team.
100%.
Stedman is being, trying to bring some gravity to the lens of what it is we're going up against, but you do not take the pedal off. You do not take your foot off of that pedal for nothing, ever. You don't do it, because the moment you do is the moment you're giving up. We don't do that. I don't let anybody do that. I'm already working on projects to deal with people, freedmen, who ignorantly enough run around talking about we'll never get reparations. In the middle of a full-fledged educational conversation, they'll add that in there, which is defeating the entire value set of telling people about how the movement is actually gaining ground and how the movement is actually going to make a difference. If you talk like that, you're starting to create a snowball effect to give up, because there's no point in talking about never achieving something unless you're using that as fodder to give up over, right? So don't ever accept that from us. We're never putting that out there, and don't accept that from anybody else. But the other thing to be clear about for anybody who's watching, who's trying to understand where we're going with this, and we're going to move into it a little bit on a trajectory and start to move out of it and give the whole big scope, especially with the diaspora implement or the diaspora impact to the Black community on a global scale, is please understand, right? We do not condone the killing of innocent people, and we do not support the invasion of Ukraine. We're not here to say that we're here for Russia to take over or do anything or anything like that. But what we are saying is that there is a very clear reason why this is happening. Anybody who's trying to simplify it to, oh, they just want to rule the world, or oh, this, that, and the third, and they're just oversimplifying it, they're being ahistorical. And we want people not only to understand the history, but as we go into telling you what our foreign policy position is on it, it'll all click in place.
Hey, wait, let me say something. I'm agitating you, BB, and I hope you go out and take this fire that I put under you and go put in some work, because you mad at me, and I like that.
I ain't even looking in the comments. Listen, okay. So, I mean, listen, we talked about why Russia is running into Ukraine. There's a whole bunch of different reasons. We talked about the military, the resource advantage, the cultural ties, of course, the access to the Black Sea, the pipelines, all these different things, and the NATO buffer, right? The security. We watched a video on that as well, in terms of, experts discussing this from a political standpoint in the context of a Black topic focused show, which shows you that, yeah, it may seem like it's just a hot new thing to talk about at this time, but no, in reality, it does have a bearing on what we're doing, because it advises strategy and it shows you the capability of this government. Why? Because what are they trying to roll out right now, gentlemen? I just seen that package. What's that package talking about of money they trying to roll out for Ukraine?
It's too much. I don't know. I haven't really been focused on that stuff.
I'm not either. I just the news.
It's infuriating to me, because they're Nazis, and so that's the part that I can't get over. The U.S. government is in front of your face, got people cheering for Nazis, and I'm looking like, am I in the clown world?
12 billion in new aid for Ukraine.
Yep, that it right. That's
billion. It. So. I think like this, when we're talking about this is like from a political conversation. This is foreign affairs. This is a political topic that we do need to have some focus on, but it's not too much focus, because we know that even with the war going on in Ukraine, the focus that we're talking about, like the situation in Detroit, where the city government is going to go door to door asking if people have the money to pay their water bill at a time where there are rising gas prices due to the result of this conflict in Russia. While understanding that America is taking a position that could impact the lives of our family members if there was ever a need for a draft, or the implications of that type of war. Hold on, Stan. I was going to say, so when we're talking about this topic with the Ukraine, our position, like me personally, my position is, yes, from a political standpoint, there are conflicts that America may or may not need to be involved in. For this political situation, knowing the facts in the history of what we just covered through these other videos that gave us an alternative view, I would say that America doesn't need to be involved. I'm neither in support of Ukrainian invasion, nor am I in support of arming the Ukraine. I'm literally a neutral party in this instance. And I think that's the stance that our American government needs to take, because there are more important or pressing issues in my political view that it should be tackled. Now, if you go ask any white Ukrainian American what the American political focus should be, I'm guaranteeing you they're going to say Ukraine, Russia.
Ukraine.
That's not my political focus. The same way for most of these freemen who want to achieve political reparations, we understand that in order to achieve that, we're looking at a political fight similar to King. And I guess King was similar to what King and Malcolm X fought. One thing that we do have in our advantage, though, is that while this war is going on, there could be a potential for us to leverage like this opposition of the Russian media versus the American media, to the point where America may feel pressed to provide us with these political tangibles we're seeking to achieve in order to keep a certain population from being swayed to become what they call communists or apologists to the Russian, you know what I'm saying, the Russian government. That's kind of what happened during the civil rights era when we're looking at the Cold War and the political advantages that brought to the Black Americans fighting, domestically at home. So that's the only thing I wanted to add in. You guys got anything you wanted to drop in there?
Yeah. When Detroit needed to go through bankruptcy, it was $18 billion. That was all the money they needed. $18 billion. And you're giving $12 billion to a country that don't have shit to do with us. And all we know about Ukraine is that some energy company over there paid your son $85,000 a month not to come there and say nothing and do nothing.
Ooh.
And you couldn't talk about it during the election.
Ooh.
Wasn't it right? $2 billion to fix the pipes in Flint or something like that?
Yeah.
$2 billion. Listen to this. You see these numbers? These numbers matter. How much did they give out for? How much did they roll up for Corona? Them stimulus checks.
Shit.
Total on that. Billions. I mean, it was trillions that they made accessible to banks and corporations over a span of 2 days. It was between $5 and $7 trillion. But this is what I'm talking about. We allow these people to control the truth, at least the dialogue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now they shutting down. Oh, you can't have this. They putting out propaganda. This is why I talk about censorship a lot. This is why I talk about censorship a lot. I talk about censorship a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding censorship and the negative effects of censorship. Talk about this all the time. And so now you see it. Now you see it here. So you censor dissenting voices. We didn't get into it too much last show about the whole mis, dis, and malinformation, where they're trying to talk about charging people as terrorists for spreading mis, dis, and malinformation from the government.
Mm-hmm. That's the new hotness. That's the new hotness, man.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is the political entity you're up against.
So that political entity, listen, this complexity unfortunately impacts our brothers and sisters abroad as well. Well, by color, right? Our friends, the diaspora across the globe. There happens to be a good small settlement of them in Ukraine, right? African and West Indian people who are in Ukraine right now for school and various other things, right? And so we've seen these reports during this invasion as people have been trying to, evacuate and get out of the way of the shelling and the Russian onslaught and the shooting. The Black people who are there are trying to escape, and they're running into, what is that? They're running into those Nazi mindset folks. Some of those folks are even on the Polish side of the line. So they're trying to go to Poland. They're getting stopped. They're trying to leave Ukraine. They're being deprioritized over white Ukrainians. There's even people who I think are naturalized who aren't getting through as quickly as they should be.
And so, going up against good old European racism, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. White supremacy takes no holidays, even during times of war. So, I mean, that's
what are you doing in Eastern Europe? That's my only question.
Especially what are they doing in Eastern Europe, you say?
Yeah, what are you doing over there anyway?
Well, you know why. It's the same reason they would come here. It's probably easier to go there and do what they wanted to do here.
I mean, I ain't willing to take that risk, bro. I ain't never wanted to go over there, bro.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? There's nothing in Eastern Europe that I've ever even, there's parts of Western Europe I don't want to go to. But East, like we talked about, I ain't never wanted to go to Germany. Go to Eastern Europe? You know what I'm saying? I saw Euro trip in Hostel. You know what I'm saying? Cutting folks up and all that. Hell no.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a double parallel on display though. Like the treatment that we see at it's a compromise. Like for me, it ain't even a compromising position. Like seeing racism against other Black people, I definitely denounce that shit any day of the week. But when I see this and I see the American government trying to support Ukraine and spin this narrative that these are noble refugees who need our assistance, to be quite frank, I'm like, we could send them all to hell and I wouldn't care, because for this like level of racism to exist in the country, they have prior videos of Ukrainian people running up on Africans, calling them monkeys and giving them bananas and forcing them either to eat it or taunting them with it. And then you got 2 years later, this war kicks off, and you got these same folks in the army and even in the police force who are openly demonstrating that like this form of white supremacy that goes back to like some of the things that we've seen in America when it comes to racism. Now, the fact that I'm against that doesn't mean that I'm going to champion this cause, because there are other priorities for my people. And so I feel like I can denounce this, but not make this my top political priority, because it isn't. And the reality is these are exceptional immigrants who were able to immigrate anywhere around the world, and they chose to go to Ukraine where they would be represented less than 0.3% of the population. Like, this is the brutal reality. So this is like me trying to protest or fight for the Africans that are in China in a region where it's 99% Han Chinese, and they did some racist shit to them. Like that's not my white supremacy fight. My white supremacy fight is in America at home. Something that I can touch, something that's physical, something that's local, and then pertinent to my people. And so, like, honestly, from a global perspective, yes, we're going to denounce white supremacy anywhere we see it. But at the same time, from a political perspective and what that means for me locally here in America, it doesn't mean I'm out here to just champion the cause of the Ukrainian Africans. Like, that's not my fight. And
I posted that.
You got to start understanding.
I posted that clip of the reporters talking about all the refugees crying because they got blonde hair and blue eyes, and how this is devastating because this ain't some third world hellhole. Honestly, and it's just like, Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. I think it's the number one most corrupt country in Europe.
I think I did read that they have some corruption issues over there.
Yeah, I went to Bulgaria first. I went to Romania first. You know what I'm saying? Like,
another issue I did want to go to point out. Another issue I did want to point out. I don't know if you guys have been seeing this, but the corporations that I work for, affiliated with, they have been having calls that we stand with Ukraine and how you can support the Ukrainian refugees, and the DNI is taking these initiatives to focus on, providing inclusion to people who could be marginalized through war efforts and shit like that. So I feel like if a corporation could take those steps, then I could definitely bring up reparations as a political topic to any, to any organization, because at this point, you're involving yourself as an entity into political affairs that shit your company isn't responsible for. So
you know what? That's a very good point.
If that's your opinion, then locally you should have more focus or more worry for the American freedmen and the history that we do share as countrymen.
That part right there.
The Ukrainian people. So that this is something that I've seen, and I feel like if I have to talk to my Black network, I might have to bring that up. But we'll see how far that gets us.
That's a good point, though. Like that has been the most amazing response that I've seen, is all these Western companies pulling out of Russia or shutting down operations left and right. Just like, it's almost like they've fallen in line, but they didn't even go this hard with Black Lives Matter. Well, they ain't even go half as hard for Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter on its face as an idea is cool. The organization is absolute trash can operation, but Black Lives Matter didn't get this type of energy. Now, with all these Western companies pulling out of Russia, what I also perceive as potential for the future is that if they don't pull back, if these companies don't reinstate operations or go back relatively soon after at least a ceasefire, after it calms down, what it will do is it'll drive the Russian people into more of a separatist mindset from the West, and it'll increase global hostility because they'll feel excluded long after the war. And yes, there's going to be a lot of rebuilding that Russia has to do in that country, but the idea that all these services and things that these people may have been interested in or using, especially like I heard Netflix shut their stuff down over there. These people are like, okay, so that's how you really feel about us, the people who had no idea this was going on. They're gonna like bet. Then they're gonna come up with their Russian alternatives. They're gonna get with the Chinese. They're gonna use Chinese networks, just like they switched the Union Pay in favor of the MasterCard and Visa systems to do a global business. And they're going to start to increase this level of hostility. And it's going to move from just that Putin level down to more and more of the commoners. Because you know, I don't know that they can ever clean this up because I don't see Netflix and Pepsi and McDonald's just turning the light switch back on like that, because then that would show explicitly kind of how opportunist their activity was.
Well, see, but that was my point. And then kind of say what y'all say, because I kept forgetting to bring this up. But like I've already told y'all, I don't mess with Florida, nothing. Florida oranges, Florida orange juice, nothing. I don't do none of that, right?
Right.
I don't go to Florida no more, none of that. Because Florida, since 1972, when the Supreme Court ruled that the death penalty was constitutional, the state of Florida has not given a death penalty to a white person for killing a black person. They've never done it since 1972. And they have never done it. So I don't go to Florida at all. My mother-in-law live in Florida.
Have they killed black people since 72? Have they killed black people for killing white people?
Yeah. Florida give you the chair quick. Florida and Texas, them two places that you want the chair, you're going to get it in Florida and Texas. But you didn't see this. Like you saying, you didn't even got to say Black Lives Matter. Understanding that police killed unarmed people. Understanding George Zimmerman wasn't even a police officer. And he killed somebody, unarmed, a child. And none of these places saw fit to put no pressure on nobody. You got motherfuckers pouring out vodka for this, and you don't even know what's going on. And nobody, you ain't willing to stop going to South Beach. You ain't willing to stop buying oranges from Florida. Go buy Sunkist oranges. You ain't willing to do something. I don't go to Walmart. I don't shop at Walmart. I ain't shopped at Walmart since John Crawford III got killed in a Walmart for carrying around an airsoft gun that they sell in Walmart, and Walmart didn't say shit about that. Right? In Ohio, right?
Yeah, that was, I think. So
you have all these organizations showing you they don't give a shit about us.
So they don't give any crap about us, and neither do the Ukrainians, apparently. But you know, I don't think everybody's naive to that who's over there. To the point, I want to show a video clip of a little interview here with my mans. I want to show y'all if y'all ain't seen this yet. I'm gonna go ahead and get it playing, and we're gonna watch this one.
High Commissioner for Refugees is now confirming to us that there are cases of discrimination in admitting refugees. One Congo native saying he was discriminated against while trying to board a train out of Ukraine. Take a listen.
They even told us, like, we are going to give you guns and you're going to fight for Ukraine. I said, hi, we're going to fight for Ukraine? We are not Ukrainian. We are black. So how can we fight? How can we fight for Ukraine? If we fight for Ukraine, we are going to die first because we are black. When they will say, oh, look at those black people, I think they are from NATO. So we have to kill them first. So how could they think that way? Come on. Ukraine.
I ain't even fighting for Congo. You think I'm about to fight for Ukraine? Like Tariq be saying. It wasn't popping. He had to flee.
This is the crazy part. He said, we ain't Ukrainian, we black, but he want the Ukrainian rights that they're affording to their citizens. That's the crazy part.
He wanted that.
If this is America and we had an invasion at home, I really can't, hear the argument that, you know what I'm saying, you're not an American citizen, you're just black. Like, that's not going to happen for us.
Well, I mean, if they had an invasion, I wouldn't even be fighting.
But now at the same time, they rightfully justify with all of the racist shit going on. Like, ain't no way I'm going to openly serve unless they forced that AK in my hand. And we had to go down the street.
You put an AK in my hand, I might turn it on you, so don't even play.
But no, that dude, he killed me. Like, he's just like Ukraine. Like
he got a point too.
He's like, I love his point, Ernest. His point was dead on. Like they see him. Like, why is there a black dude with a gun? Oh, he must be that NATO here. First thing they shoot him, then second thing they call Putin, then Putin dropping bombs in the wrong place, and it's a wrap.
But I mean, why is you there? Why is you there, bro?
Back to that.
You see what I'm saying? Go back to Congo, bro. Get it popping.
No,
fight in Congo. Get it popping, bro.
No, so the funny thing that you say that's dead is that it's actually a lot of Africans who on the continent that while this whole issue has been going on with Africans in the Ukraine, there's been Africans who've been saying that NATO, the EU, and the African Union, while they all focused on the efforts that's going on in the Ukraine, they refuse to look at current conflicts in Mozambique. I think it wasn't Congo, but it was Mozambique. Shit, I got to think of the country that I had up. But there was two other countries that they mentioned. Yeah, you said Burundi was one, but there was another one too, Cameroon. So those three countries, they actually got these protesters who are doing hashtag Africa. They're doing hashtag African, hashtag Ukraine, but they put in the issues that are domestic to Africa or their lands, the issues that are going on every day to bring social awareness to that, because that's not being talked about. What we are focused on, though, is this injustice that's going on with these immigrants and these white folks. So, I found that interesting that, they took that chance to uplift the issues that they find important, which is similar to what Black Americans must do in this moment.
Shoot. And see, this is the thing, though. We keep getting stuck on these people trying to say, black, like I listen to Tariq, he do these Twitter spaces, and he talked to these different, so they and it's just like, but y'all keep leaving. We're no Black Americans is leaving America. We fighting. We all here fighting.
Yeah.
Y'all all leaving.
We leave for other we go away for little vacations to make money. Like our WNBA stars. We got one stuck in Russia right now.
Yeah, she.
What?
She crazy, bro.
Wait a minute. What happened? What?
You want to bring that hash oil over there?
Yeah. So I really was kind of like, that off.
She a fool, man.
Off the jump, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you did break the law. I'm pretty sure.
You a dummy, bro.
About it.
You can go to a country and do anything illegal, bro. You better be the best citizen you can be. You a dummy. You a dummy.
Oh man,
it's a lot of people thinking that American rights apply to the globe.
That's you ain't that kind of celebrity, bro.
Like they can go to any country and they get the American whole layout. Top 10 bills. Equal rights, equal protection, all of that. That's not how it works over there.
And it's even worse. You over there, it ain't nobody checking on you, because Anthony Blinken was like, he's working to free all Americans in Russian custody. And he told anybody who can get out to get out. But he did not mention WNBA star Brittney Griner by name. He referred to her detention, though. Griner, who plays for both the Phoenix Mercury and Russian basketball team club UMMC Ekaterinburg, was arrested at a Moscow area airport and accused of transporting drugs. She was, unfortunately. Well, there's only so much I can say given the privacy considerations at this point, that Blinken said. Whenever an American is detained anywhere in the world, we, of course, stand ready to provide every possible assistance, and that includes in Russia. Yep, and then he go on and talk about everybody else and some shit and things like this. But listen, this is the thing. She Black, and she in Russia, and we fucking with Russia. So,
yeah,
when they say it's going to be very hard to get her back, they think it's going to be pretty hard to get
drug
back.
laws is over there, bro, but I imagine they're tough as shit.
It'll be very difficult to get her back. That's what the lawmakers are saying.
You got to be on your best behavior,
but see, even her situation, that's not a top focus of the black community or Freeman.
It's not.
So, like, to mount all this political campaign energy into free Brittney Griner, that could be applied to reparations in your state. That could be applied to trying to fix the water moratoriums or whatever the hell may be going on. And that's the political reality of Black Americans or freemen in America. Mm-hmm. There's other issues that are bigger.
Yep. So unfortunately, this is bad news bears, and she in the worst country you could be in right now.
No, the worst country is Ukraine, but that's probably like a close second though.
Well, I mean, if you can get out of Ukraine, get to the line.
They're gonna think she a man, they're gonna make her stay.
I don't know, but listen here, some porcupine done popped up named Gerard. Man, yeah, boy. Look at here. What's cracking with you?
Hey, man, what's going on with B?
Hey,
what's happening, bros? What's going on, man? I'm sorry, man. I'm in Kenya right now, so freaking the time it always gets me, dude. And there's a power outage right now.
Hey, it sounds dark over there too. It really does.
It sounds dark.
Like it echoes with the power out. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So, man, you got anything to throw in on any of the stuff we talk about, Gerard? Because I think we done covered everything up to your man's in them.
Hey, you ever been to Ukraine?
Hell to the no. I would never go out there, bro.
That's what I'm saying, guys. Like, who's going to Eastern Europe? You ever been to Eastern Europe?
Nope, I never, man. And the funny thing, man, I wish I could have had the link. I don't know who you got for your mans in them, but freaking, I went through a your mans in them moment last weekend or the weekend before last. It was a BMT, Black Men's Travels. He interviewed like two guys, one Black American and another like African, that's actually in Russia / Ukraine. And this the crazy part about it was like the Black guy, the Black American was trying to sell the fact that can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, making sure. Okay, yeah, he was giving the other version of well, outside of what the media is talking about. Granted, I feel you know what I'm saying. There's a lot to do about NATO expanding and blah blah blah, so on and so forth, and Russia being threatened behind that and so on and so forth. But what really was killing me, man, was he was trying to sell that this basically really racism. He feels more free in Ukraine and Russia than he did in the United States. And just I couldn't go against his anecdotal experience. I didn't speak against that, man. But I know for all of the things that USSR did as far as supporting the different political movements like the Panthers and Paul Robeson and all the different racial struggles that was going on during Jim Crow and so on and so forth, the civil rights movement. All of that was just a play, bro, just to make United States look bad. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you really think the actual Russian really gives a damn about Black people in the United States? Let alone anybody in Eastern European. And when you always see these different cases of when Blacks go to Europe, whether it be Eastern Europe, Western Europe, it doesn't matter. I mean, you see it all the time. I mean, this is the source of white supremacy. This is where it came from. This is the cradle of it. Europe itself. That's why I just don't understand why Black people even go to Europe on any level outside of maybe like, okay, I want to see some of these historical sites. You know what I'm saying? But as far as like acting like it's going to be, it's so free and way better. I mean, you hear it, of course, in the past. Blacks get treated differently in Europe versus America, man. But at the core and the heart of it, bro, it's no different, man. It's just the new flavor of it. That's just my opinion on it, man. So like I don't have a lot of sympathy for the Blacks that go over into these Eastern European, Western European, and they get treated like crap when it's time to be treated like crap. I mean, come on, dude. What do you expect? It's a global white supremacist situation, I just don't get it, man. That's just my point.
Minority wake up call.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't, that's what I tell people all the time. Like I've been to Japan, I've been in the Netherlands, I've been to Thailand, been to Australia, but it's just certain places, bro, I ain't trying to fuck with. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know y'all laws, and I don't know how y'all people act. And if I have any issues, I don't want to whoop nobody ass and be in trouble. In places I'm not trying to go to.
You're gonna be stuck.
Problems here.
You're gonna be stuck.
Places in the Middle East I wouldn't go to. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you know, it ain't just, you know, Eastern Europe or
I ain't going
whatever,
nowhere over the Middle East.
Certain places, man.
Yeah,
it's a certain places, dude. Just it ain't, you know. And I'm Muslim, man, and I, you know, I shoot outside of Hajj. I think that would be it, if that's, you know, you know.
And then for me, like the only reason I ain't been to Africa yet because you need a visa, and I ain't been nowhere you need a visa yet.
Well, you don't need one in South Africa. You don't need a visa in South Africa.
You know what though? Apartheid fucked me up. Honestly, I can't get over it. I can't get over apartheid, bro.
Yeah, can't get over apartheid.
I can't get over it. I can't go down there because I just feel like one of the white people will still be acting crazy and call me a nigga or whatever they call them over there, and I'll just be like, what?
Don't have to jump off from South Africa.
Anthony the K word. Oh, the K word, man. Yeah. It's you know, when you travel, it's wild just seeing different things, man, and you know, it's kind of crazy. Just you know, just seeing how other cultures and other people do things, and how how influential Black Americans are. Yeah. You know, like that's the one thing that's kind of wild. You know? Yeah, it's like, you know, here I am, I'm in Kenya, and they have these buses and shuttles, and like you're seeing, you know, so what they do is they decorate these buses and shuttles because they don't really have like a public transportation system in the same way that we think of it, right? Like, you know, city buses and things. They're not in Kenya. They don't. They're all like kind of like privately owned. Or what have you. And so, you know, I guess to attract, you know, customers to their, you know, transportation services and the little transportation hubs, they, you know, they have people that really like, they try to call you to their buses. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make to all of this is that they decorate the buses, and to see, you know, freaking Ludacris's face on, you know, on these buses, you know what I mean? Like to see, you know, I mean, we're talking about it to your obscure person, you know, or hip hop artist, or, you know, I've seen, you know, Drake to freaking even what's his name, my man, it's another one, DJ Khaled, you know what I'm saying? This is like, wow, this music is this American culture has this much influence to power references, like television shows. It's like, wow, dude, I would never think another country would pay that much attention to our cultural things, but it's there, bro. It really is. And then for somebody to tell you that, you know, you don't have a culture, right?
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous.
I watch NHK a lot, the Japanese news. They had a Japanese cat rapping, bro. And I'm sitting here like, we don't have no culture. Everything we do, y'all doing it. The way y'all dress, the way y'all act, it's our way of doing it. But we don't have no culture. And then the Jamaicans trying to take rap.
Yeah. It's wild. Like a real popular music right now. That's kind of even over, like, so Afrobeats is, you know, primarily the main, you know, music that's being played and most young people listen to, and that's coming out of Nigeria. You definitely see the influence of hip hop in that. Then, you know, now South African, you're starting to see more people gravitate towards South African music, which is Amapiano, which is basically just like house music. You know what I'm saying? It's really just like, you know, their version of house music. And you see it all in that as well, you know. I mean, yes, they're using their own language primarily in there as far as their lyrics and everything, with like the beats, the production, you see it all, man. So yeah, it's wild. But not to get too much off topic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, speaking along those lines about the influence, definitely Black Americans got influence, but shit, even Americans in general got influence. So maybe that's why dude couldn't see or spot the racism in the Ukraine, because he had that American exceptionalism rapping around him. But
he actually used that as an example. He was saying like how he said like, you know, there's Russians wearing like, you know, dressing up like in hip hop fashion, like somebody in Brooklyn would do, or you know what I'm saying? They're wearing Yankee hats and
they got that Adidas thing going heavy in Russia.
see, that's crazy. But I was gonna say that Zelensky, he making all his appeals in English, and that's for a reason. That influence.
Right.
So let's go ahead and pivot into the last segment of the show. The most fun segment of the show. You know, we got to talk about some folks. It's your mans and them.
You are listening to your mans and them. This your mans? Hey, yo, who mans is this? Hey, yo, who mans is this? Hey, yo, who mans is this?
Whose mans is this? I need to know. I really need to know.
What? Go ahead, Tim.
Man, this bitch.
What'd she do, man? Let me read it. VP Kamala Harris walks across Edmund Pettus Bridge in honor of the 57th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. Woo, there she is. As she walked over to Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, Vice President Kamala Harris urged Congress to pass voting rights legislation. Harris traveled to the state on March 6th in honor of the 57th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, where 600 activists were trudged across the Selma Bridge protesting against voter discrimination. And to read this quote, she said a record number of people cast their ballots in 2020 elections. It was a triumph of democracy in many ways, but not everyone saw it that way. Some saw it as a threat, Harris said, adding that the GOP-led states across the country have made it increasingly difficult to vote with their un-American laws. She also criticized Republican lawmakers for blocking the passage of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, or John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and the Freedom to Vote Act. Both pieces of proposed legislation have been widely contested among Democrats and Republicans. The John Lewis Voting Act, they go on to explain it, et cetera, et cetera. Just to finish this off, in 1965, as protesters marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, agitators and police harassed and attacked the social justice warriors with tear gas and billy clubs as they fought for freedom to vote during Bloody Sunday.
Did she make any mention of the Ukraine in this?
Yeah, she did. She got
let me go.
Yeah, that's the fucked up part. Keep going.
So right from here. So dozens were injured and 17 people were hospitalized during the vice president's speech. She noted that marchers fought not only for their right to vote, but to ensure that all the people of our nation, no matter where they start, have the opportunity to succeed. Harris met with a slew of civil rights leaders from Alabama. She joined the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Marsha Fudge, Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, and Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona.
They don't have the text in here. Yeah, she said something about Ukraine in here.
My God, hold on. Is it in this? Let me see.
Well, I mean, if that's the full thing, yeah. I don't know what the timestamp will be. I don't know how long she talked.
Yeah, let me see. I can probably find a snippet of it. But so what did she say? What was she talking about?
But you know, the Edmund Pettus was a grand wizard. So the bridge is still named after that motherfucker.
What?
Yeah, he was a grand wizard.
Yeah, the KKK. Yeah.
So y'all still walking around the bridge. Like, that's the thing about the optics. Like, and I get, at the end of the day, like, that's incidental to, I guess, the real situation. But like, y'all still walking on this bridge. This man's name is still on the bridge. Like, and I don't know. I remember when Clinton, I went to Rosa Parks' funeral, right? I don't know if you went, Gerard. I don't know if you was here still.
No.
But I went to Rosa Parks' funeral. So Bill Clinton was there. George Bush was there because he was president. I believe he was there, maybe not. But they was talking about voting rights then. And she died in like 02, 01. How the fuck we still talking about voting rights? Like, how was that the only thing Democrats got to offer black people? How is that the only thing you ever got to talk about is voting rights?
Well, bruh, listen.
Because it serves them. That's why, man. You know what I mean? That's why they talk about it, because it serves their political cause. You know what I mean? And it's not only for black people. So, of course, because if it was only for black people, then no, they couldn't talk about it.
I know Kamala wouldn't do it if it was just for us. I know she would do that. She's against
this just as you said. I got the actual transcript, transcript of her speech on the bridge, and as I read this, she said, "Good afternoon, Selma. Good afternoon, everyone. Kendra, thank you for those inspiring words." Kendra must have spoken before her. In a great tradition of Alabama State, you are a leader of outstanding passion and purpose, and it is wonderful to have shared the stage with you. So, Selma, before I begin, I want to say a few words about the situation in Ukraine. Today,
why
the eyes of the world are on Ukraine and the brave people who are fighting to protect their country and their democracy.
The Nazis who we're funding because America likes Nazis and white supremacists.
And their bravery is a reminder that freedom and democracy can never be taken for granted by any of us. Then she goes on to try to step right out of that shit. With that, it is a privilege to be among so many distinguished leaders, dedicated activists, friends, and American heroes, and to be with so many members of Congress, of our cabinet, who are all representing our nation and representing our administration, and goes into Congressman John Lewis, et cetera, et cetera. Wow. That was so fucking.
I was worried because I'm like, I know these motherfuckers clapped, but then I saw the applause at the little bottom, so I'm like, okay, they didn't clap. So at least they didn't clap about. At least everybody was sitting there like, we don't give a fuck about Ukraine.
But this classic American politics. We didn't give a fuck about Guatemala, but they'll take a black event and insert what's going on in global affairs as the main issue of focus or some type of link to our history in order to mobilize the black people to support the bullshit. That's a problem.
It's always that's that mule concept, man. That we're the mule to everybody else, getting something except for us getting something when it's time for us to get something, right? So they'll make everything relatable to our struggle here in this country, but won't recompense and set straight our actual issues that the country caused.
Yeah, it's always the same.
And bringing that up, so you talked about Guatemala, right? It reminded me because I had a lot of stuff in there about this too. But the U.S. has funded, supported dictators all around South America, all around the world who they supported. And I'm not just talking about didn't find the ability to go in and get a hold of, right? George Bush, I got a clip of him in 2000, whatever, talking about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Then I got a clip from CNN 11 years ago, where the lady say like, so how did it feel when you didn't find weapons of mass destruction? And he was like, yeah, it was real tough. Like, you went and bombed the country and killed millions of people. You invaded a country and killed millions of people for a lie. And you talking about some shit where, Russia has legitimate security concerns. You call this tyrannical. You supported in Nicaragua, dictator, in Chile, dictator, in Haiti, dictator, in Uganda, dictator. You killed Patrice Lumumba, had a dictator in Zaire. You know what I'm saying? You supported apartheid in South Africa. All these people, dictator in South Korea. You supported
Saddam
all around the world.
They supported Saddam Hussein.
Right. Saddam, the Saudis today. You supported dictators all around the world and did whatever you wanted to do when you saw fit. And then when a country is electing people that they think is helping them out, you invade them and kill them and overthrow their government.
Oh man, ain't that some stuff?
What I'm saying?
But yeah, no, it's this is what she did. She went up here,
this bitch,
just talking that toxic flat blackness as an insult to the community who suffered at the hand of the government that still allows this bridge to be named what it is after who it's named after. And here's really one interesting point I wanted to show you guys. Let me go back to this video. If I go and I pull this up,
okay. Even Alabama have given a white man the death penalty for killing a black person.
Florida. So you really against that? That Florida shit is so serious. But let me scroll down here, yo. Look at this. Elizabeth Gomez. What's really funny to me is that until the media told me so, I had no idea Harris was even black of any sort. One, because I wouldn't care. And two, because she looks like a million other people in America. She is the most pointless person in administration, and that's saying a lot coming from Elizabeth Gomez. Everybody was big mad at Elizabeth.
Well, obviously she's from the right version, because that's, she must be a Republican leaning person, because that's what they always try to do, is play colorblind. Right, if you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know. I don't see color. No.
Gomez, maybe she thought she was a Latino like them.
Right. She looked like a Casey Cortez.
Right, but I mean, when she says she's the most pointless person in administration, I mean, for real.
Yeah, she right on that. We'll agree on that one.
Booty Gig got her beat. Booty Gig got her beat.
He said Booty Gig.
Booty Gig got her beat. That motherfucker was missing for 2 months and nobody noticed. See, look, you can hear the life being drained out of the crowd the longer she spoke.
Yeah, I seen that. That's
I was literally
look, and the comments is getting upvotes. But then you got I don't care what the hell you talking about.
But her name is Masipo Ramaboli. So they don't have no expectation. You know what I'm saying?
Who is this cat?
You mad?
I should click
madder than me.
Oh, but here, no, I ain't going over there. That's some garbage. I already see what's over there. But just to top it off, she's our, donkey of the day, unfortunately, in a way. In Selma's speech, Kamala Harris linked civil rights fight with the war in Ukraine.
As the Ukrainians
makes sense, right?
Yeah, as the Ukrainians have Nazis in their ranks, you know what I'm saying, and beat black and treat blacks, let us say Black Americans, but blacks unequally. It's like, come on, man, really?
I mean, one issue tied to slavery and the results of that, and then the other one, I guess, that shit tied to, imperial powers, foreign intervention, and Nazism. African immigration and Nazism. I mean, I don't know if it's the same.
Oh, it's time for this woman to go.
They did an interview with one of the guys from one of the far right fascist groups in Ukraine. PBS did it, and he had a picture of the Nazi guy on his wall.
Oh, geez.
Like, they're not even hiding it.
Yeah, we gotta save Ukrainian.
It's wild, dude. It always confuses me when But then again, like I said, white supremacy is always supreme. I mean, the Nazis killed a bunch of Ukrainians. The same, no different than like when you see a bunch of people from Michigan. You know what I'm saying? Waving Confederate flags. It's like, what? like it doesn't make any fucking like these, like the Confederates was kicking ass in the first couple of years of the war. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, like how you be from a northern state and freaking, talk about you repping Confederacy, or even white people, even today in America, claiming, the Nazi shit. Because the idea of white supremacy is always at the extreme, regardless of whatever political or historical, effect that it may have had to their actual lineage, and the adverse. They still claim to it. They cling to it, and that's more important to them. So it's just like, I don't give a damn about any of it, man. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Hold on. Still tell Gerard what you said about the blue and yellow comment.
Blue and yellow.
The blue and yellow comment.
Oh yeah, I said the only blue and yellow I want to see is Michigan. I don't give a fuck about none of this shit. The only blue and yellow I want is go blue, baby. None of this Ukraine shit. I see anybody black with a Ukraine flag, I'm smacking them.
Yeah, I want to see that shit. U of M. Yeah.
You want to see that more than you want to see Ukraine flag. I know that.
Shoot. Either those two combinations is the ugliest fucking combination in the world, in my opinion.
Well, it's a different shade,
but,
so I agree with you on that.
And it doesn't matter either one. But anyway.
No, but
I know Darvell wants to end this. I had some questions to ask about y'all once we go on off the camera about some of the comments that was left in the live chat, bro. I'm like, wow, this chick is going wild, man.
Hey, but yeah, just let me. I can start off with closing comments. That's cool.
No, I was gonna do. I got another yo man. We can't.
Okay, let's go ahead.
No, man.
Big dummy right here.
Wait, y'all gonna play you gonna play the video clip about how he got on or nah?
What did he do? What was the video clip?
How he got made, his rise to fame.
No, was that
big dummy?
You gotta watch it.
He was an actor, right? He was an actor and a comedian before.
No,
he actually was on his show.
Hey, he gotta watch the clip then.
Watch it. He was actually on a TV show in Ukraine where he was a teacher. And he wanted to inspire his students and some shit, so he ran for president.
I'm gonna put it in there right now.
That was part of the plot of the show, and then he actually did it in real life.
And then, Oh
man, that's crazy, dude.
Tell me some strings ain't being pulled. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And he's shorter than Tom Cruise. That's why he talking so much shit. He probably ain't even in Ukraine no more. I sent y'all a new article where he said he's willing to negotiate the eastern region of Ukraine right now and a stalemate or some shit.
That's in their best interest. That's in their best interest to do so. He's
cool on joining NATO. That's what it said. He's cool on joining NATO, and he's willing to negotiate on eastern Ukraine because they really gonna just need to split the country up in half. Western Ukraine gonna need to be a Nazi country, and Eastern Ukraine gonna have to be Russian.
Right. Yeah. And then
put it in there, Darville, in the chat.
Okay, another thing that I learned about so of course the media is saying, well, of course Ukraine isn't Nazi affiliated. Zelensky is a Jew, and it was like actually this cat for the longest period of time downplayed his Jewishness. Because in that political arena, that's what you need to do, and then only until now are we, he's starting to, make that more of a known entity about himself.
And I would even argue, even on that hand, like the video you had posted in our group, Obama black, he didn't do nothing for black people. He still did the same racist American policies that we used to, ain't he? So apparently belonging to an oppressed organization or group doesn't preclude a person to be more sensitive to the needs of that group.
Yeah, in fact, in the comment, he was like that and I'm paraphrasing, but when it was brought up the fact that that he comes from a Jewish background, he was like, oh, that's like how did he put? He said something like that's like not even in the top 20 list of things that are wrong about me. That's how he referred to his Jewishness.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And
let me play this clip real quick.
Go ahead.
Let's see what's got.
Ніяку зброю ми не складемо. Будемо захищати нашу державу.
Vladimir Zelensky is the president of Ukraine. Just as Zelensky emerged an unlikely president, he's now emerged an unlikely war hero. And this has proved itself a very fitting role. He's used social media to make his presidential addresses approachable and relatable. He's filming himself in selfie mode on the streets of Kyiv, wearing sweaters and t-shirts.
Всі ми тут захищаємо нашу незалежність, нашу державу. І так буде й далі.
That kind of communication has really resonated with Ukrainians and people around the world. And in his resolve to stay, it's clear he intends to defend his country and even die for it. When US officials offered to help him evacuate the city because he was in so much danger, he replied, "I need ammo, not a ride." His decision to stay, while, historically many other world leaders have fled, has really helped boost Ukrainian morale. People have drawn a stark contrast between his decision to stay and the decision of President Viktor Yanukovych in 2014 to leave. Afghans on Twitter have also bitterly noted that when the Taliban was closing in on Kabul in August, their president also chose to flee. It's also important to remember that domestically, Americans were probably first introduced to Zelensky during former President Trump's first impeachment. The president had allegedly withheld aid from Ukraine in a bid to pressure the country to investigate his political rivals.
They never thought I was going to release the phone call between the Ukrainian president and myself.
Before the Russian invasion, public opinion of President Zelensky was mixed. Some people thought that he wasn't trying hard enough to fight corruption in the country. Other people thought that he'd been too willing to appease Putin and have talks with Russia. But in this time of invasion, his willingness to stay and be in the streets has really boosted people's opinion of him. Before becoming the president of Ukraine, Zelensky's only experience as a politician was playing one on TV. In addition to his role on that satirical TV show, Zelensky made a name for himself in Ukraine as an actor and entertainer. He won Dancing with the Stars in 2006, and he was the voice of Ukrainian Paddington. He was also in a goofy, well-known comedy troupe. A lot of people have pointed out that perhaps this past experience as a performer has proved essential for right now. He's very good at connecting with people. He's really good on camera. He's really delivering these impassioned speeches that are effectively helping the world understand the experience of Ukrainians right now. One of the ways that Putin has justified the invasion of Ukraine is this idea of denazification. So he's argued that it's a fight against fascism. That's something that could resonate with Russians who sacrificed so much fighting Nazis in World War II. But of course, Ukraine's president is Jewish. He's lost family in the Holocaust. His grandfather, he said, was a Holocaust survivor. One of Zelensky's appeals went viral. He appealed to the European Union, and the translator of his speech got emotional.
We're fighting just for our land and for our freedom, despite the fact that all large cities of our country are now blocked.
In that way, he's not a distant statesman. He's really become the voice of his people who are under attack.
Remember, I told you they keep talking about the land over there, our country, our land. You see what I'm saying? That's the reason they keep trying to justify that they fake ass country that should not exist.
Yeah, that's interesting because we just talked a whole bunch about Nazis and Putin said, I'm going over there to get rid of Nazis. I'm not justifying what they're doing. I'm just like, wait a minute. Did he have an actual factual basis in what he said?
I mean, you know, listen, man, I don't know. Okay, so I look at it both ways. I'm really non-biased when it comes to this whole thing, dude. Like, this is an issue that the Russians are using the Nazi thing. You know, ultimately, they don't want NATO on their doorstep. And Ukraine is the last. This is the last straw. But notice, you know, all these other ex-Soviet bloc states are freaking part of NATO, and they didn't invade. So you know, so it's like, come on, he's doing it because he can. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, it's a calculated decision by Putin to say, listen, I'm going to do what I want to do in my backyard. And I don't believe that the rest of the world is willing to take it to World War III over that. So you know, so here it is.
Well,
that's really ultimately what it is.
He invaded Georgia too for the same thing. Remember, they talked about, hey, we'll let Georgia join the NATO too, and he said, oh no, the fuck you not.
Again. Oh, okay, granted, and those were the test runs, right? And this is the final, you know, the final production that he tested with Georgia, he tested with the Crimea, and you know what I mean, in these other states. Because if it was truthfully about protecting these other, you know, Russian-backed Ukrainian states, then he would have just stopped right there, right? But that's obvious. Obviously, this is a larger goal. This is also going to play big to the Russian public. You know what I mean, of him being able to defy the West and what they want. And I mean, it's just a political play. You know what I'm saying? There's no good guys on either of this. Russia don't give a damn about racist Nazi people, to be honest with you. That's just an excuse. You know what I'm saying? You know, and at the end of the day, and this is to, you know, to show that, hey, listen, this is our region of the world, United States and Europe, and you know, the Monroe Doctrine for all those many years, you know what I'm saying, and still do. to a certain effect. I mean, hell, that's what the Cuban Missile Crisis was all about, right? We almost took it to World War III over that, from Russia back in, Fidel in our backyard. That's all this is, man. At the end of the day, that's all it is. There's no good guys, bad guys on either level. You know what I'm saying?
No
To
good
be honest
guys.
with you.
Oh,
and I agree with that. I agree with that.
It's an
My
internal
only
family
issue with
dispute.
Ukraine. Well, yeah, and I agree with my only issue with Ukraine is that the U.S. government is funding them and they Nazis.
Yeah, I get you. I get it on that. Yeah. Now, as far as our government,
I can say, look, if you give them short range nukes and let them have at it, they can turn that whole area into a parking lot, as far as I'm concerned. You know me.
Yeah.
But
for them, yeah, I totally, the hypocrisy on that note. And just like I said prior to the video playing, Darville, they're talking up, him being of Jewish descent.
Yeah.
But they were of the Jews that really were not religious or anything like that.
Yeah, right.
So on and so forth. Like I said, when he was running for office, when these things were being brought up about him being Jewish, he kind of deflected from it. Like it's not a big thing. But now it's being used as, there's no way that Ukraine could have Nazi. Like, come on, man, that's disingenuous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still like they're not actually showing you the Azov battalions and things of that nature.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, like two things could be true at the same time.
I got footage. I got videos of all them cats. I got videos of them interviewing them, talking about it. And I mean, you look at those videos, it looks like he's a very small man that look like hostage tapes. He's videotaping. He look like he's surrounded by a whole bunch of neo-Nazis, bro. And he better say what they want him to say, or he gonna be underground. And they don't care. Let me. I don't know if y'all knew this, but they had a Russian negotiator. I mean, not a Russian. He was a Ukrainian negotiator. They've been going and having these negotiations with the Russians in Belarus. They killed the guy. The Ukrainians killed him.
Oh yeah, I
thought
heard
he was a double agent.
That just was recently, right?
Yeah, but they ain't really talking about it in our news. But they killed the guy. Now, how do you have a negotiator that gets killed by his own people and y'all negotiating? You negotiating with a larger nuclear power. You're going to have to give up more than you get.
Right. Wow. Yeah, man.
But like I say, they can give them short range nukes and let them have at it.
So about those no-fly zones.
Oh yeah, America not doing that, bro. They not, and that's the thing
they're
too.
Not doing that, bro.
What happened with Georgia? And I mean, Gerard, you can speak to this more with your military background. But America's not. This is why I said they set him up for failure, because they had a dude head hyped up like, yeah, we got your back, dog. And he turned around and he's sitting there by himself holding his dick.
Yep.
Getting blasted.
They gassed my man's up for real though. They said they sent him 29 gigs.
They gassed him up and he about to pop.
Yeah, man. Like the dangerous part about this, because these are like they say, when two they have I learned this African saying, bro. It's pretty funny, but it's like, when two lions fight, the only ones that get hurt is the grass. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And that's what we're seeing in this white supremacist paradigm, right, between the West and Russia, right? It's like, okay, the problem is that this shit could escalate, and then because even if there is nuclear, even if it's on a nuclear war on a local level, that's going to have environmental effects throughout the world, and it's going to destabilize all types of currencies and economies, and we're already feeling it at the pump, right? And how long is this shit going to last? And that's the problem. That's where we have to. I noticed that there was a commenter in the live chats that was like saying, why are we even talking about this? Because it has an impact on us, economically, right? You know what I mean? And where do we fit into the conversation of this world event that's going into play, and how do we see it from our lens? That's the relativeness of why we're speaking on this subject, and not talking about reparations today, even though, specifically. And that's the problem that I see, is like, man, because of this dispute that they're having, that this could, spread into something and escalate to something really high. But from my perspective, no, that's why Putin calculated. Like, this man isn't irrational. He calculated that. Listen, he knew there was going to be these sanctions and so on and so forth. But guess what? The West is only going to, cut their nose off to spike their face if this was to last any long period of time. I mean, they supply 20-30% of energy to Europe. So for them to not sanction them for any long period of time, that's only going to drive up the rest of the economic the rest of the prices of oil and energy throughout the rest of the world, because no one's they're choosing not to buy from Russia, right? How long can that happen before the citizens of their nations are going to say, screw it, we don't give a damn. You know what I mean? We want the prices of gas to be normal, right? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and that's the thing I was saying earlier with the price of natural gas in Germany, because Germany, I think, is the largest the largest
importer.
Importer of natural gas from Russia directly.
Right.
And so you look at, like we talked about earlier, with the water shut off, right? With the pandemic having been going on like it has, you're going to be in a situation where freedmen, descendants of freedmen, are going to be paying $5, $6, $7, $8 a gallon, $10 a gallon, depending on where you live in this country. Minimum wage is $8.25 at the federal level, if I'm not mistaken. Majority of us is working minimum wage jobs, slightly more at best, right? If we still have employment, they're doing a lot of this automation. They're doing a lot of this stuff. With respect to cutting jobs. You're looking at how they're with the trucking and all the different stuff they're doing, all these different hoops. I told y'all this about 4 or 5 months ago, that we're going to have to start living in ways we didn't used to have to live. You're going to have to start living with your family. You're going to have to start buying food consciously. I went to Aldi. Aldi is I didn't even buy no meat, and I spent $160.
Damn.
At Aldi.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're going to have to start living in a way we haven't had to live before. So it's going to be survival of the fittest, and we didn't survive this whole time. We got to figure out how to continue to change so that we can continue to survive, because they trying to kill us hook or by crook, and they coming at us on all sides. You see what I'm saying? This is ridiculous, bro. This is ridiculous.
Well, gentlemen, I think we done chopped it up and hit it in the skillet and cooked it up. It's well done. I think we understand that this Ukraine situation is a huge. You know what it reminds me of? Who was it? The Chicago mayor of Chicago, in her comments. Yeah, about the
Uncle Mammy. I mean, that's what Tariq called.
Go ahead.
The Christopher Columbus statue in the Italians, that whole controversy.
Oh yeah, she was talking tough. You jive suckers. That's what hey, you should hear Tariq make fun of her, cuz. You jive turkeys. That's how she looked, bro, with that chopper suit. You wearing that hat looking like Joker in the 91 Batman, bro.
But
yeah, hey, I was gonna say, like you were saying, Darville, like I guess to get closing comments. Shit, we covered a lot, but just to recap for everybody, remember that there is a Detroit City Reparations Task Force survey. You guys can look up Mary Sheffield on Google, go to the Detroit, Michigan government webpage, scroll down and you'll see the survey. Click that link and fill it out, because it's talking about who should be eligible, which type of Detroiters should they consider, people who've been there for 10 years or longer, people who've been there for 30 years or longer. They're talking about the size of the task force, as well as the type of resources that they need to bring in or should focus on, from like urban planners to economists to genealogical specialists and all of these other things. So definitely drop your comments and be on the lookout, because we will be posting a survey infographic to our Facebook page that could be used, you know what I'm saying, to definitely guide you guys through how we would like you to fill it out. But with that being said, the situation in Ukraine, I want you guys to all understand that as political advocates, we actually believe that, war isn't beneficial to the reparations goal. It isn't beneficial to us advocating for internal politics. And as Gerard and Stedman laid out, economically, it just screws us. And in a position where we already don't have any wealth, yet alone income that, you know, can help us preserve ourselves in these type of situations, we actually need to look to the government and establishing the legislation that'll get us where we need to be. So with that, you know, those are my comments. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and be on the lookout for future episodes.
Go ahead, Gerard, then Mr. Conspiracy Brother.
All right, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. We have no permanent friends. We have no permanent enemies. Only permanent interest. And this is why this topic is relative, right? Because the permanent interest of freedmen is always first and foremost when you're judging and looking at, you know, global geopolitics, right? You know, we are a political channel that specifies in freedmen reparations, but but we have to touch upon other things that are adjacent to that, and this war is definitely adjacent to it, or this conflict, shall I say, is definitely adjacent to it. Check out we're going to be very active. Check out the Freedmen Agenda League of Michigan. We have a website now, thanks to our great person right here, Darvell, for setting that up for us. We have infographics coming up. We're going to be very active in this upcoming year in trying to influence the reparations talk in the Southeast Michigan or Southeast Michigan area. So that's all that I have to say, people. Thanks for having me come on, even late as it is. So peace.
All right, so I got a little heat from the comment section today, and that's good because it's engagement. But what I want to say is my ultimate goal, and I don't apologize for nothing I said. If realism is defeatism to y'all, you really need to just work on yourselves, because you need to understand what you're up against. Okay, it's not defeatist to acknowledge the fact that what we're trying to do is going to be near impossible. Okay, that's just the facts. You have to live in the world you live in, right? We have to do our best to live in the world that we live in and fight for the world we want, right? You can fight for your ideals, but understand where you are in the world that you live in. Don't necessarily limit your actions to the constraints of your reality, but understand where you are and fight for where you want to be. Okay? That's all I'm telling you. Because 400 years ago, nobody ever thought we'd be in this position, walking around as free can be measured in this time period, having these kind of conversations. 60 years ago, nobody thought that we'd be in the position we're in right now. 100 years ago, nobody thought that 4 black men would be able to have these kind of conversations and say the things that we say and the things that we feel like we feel. But somebody had to live in the world they lived in and fight and push for the ideals that they believed in. And so that's what I encourage all y'all to do. So if you upset at what I told you, anybody, that's great. Take that energy and go do something else with it, because you're not going to change my mind at all. But I appreciate the dialogue, and I appreciate the feedback, and I appreciate the engagement and interaction. Friedman's work and all this other stuff and all that, we have to be well-rounded. We cannot limit our scope to just thinking about what happens to us in our immediate vicinity on a day-to-day basis. The world has global implications. You think, let's say, for example, like the Nation of Islam giving black people 4 states. You don't think that's going to have some global ramifications for us? What's to stop America from defeating us as a nation and recolonizing and conquering us again? We have to understand the context of what we're talking about in a global and real way. We cannot continue to live in a delusion or a dream. And that's not saying it can't happen. But just because something is insurmountable don't mean it can't be surmounted at all. It just means it's going to be real, real hard. Sack up. Thank you.
And with that, everyone, we thank you sincerely for tuning in to tonight's show. please share, like, and subscribe to this video. It will be up on our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page. And if you found us through Twitter or any other means, including Twitch, log in, share it, promote it, do whatever you can so more people can hear this message and we can have a bigger discussion next time. Other than that, thank you so much. Be safe, and we out. Peace.
Peace and reparations.
Peace and reparations.